So we're starting this already this year, although we commissioned 2022. So we were talking about all that, and the city of Stockholm were announcing that, Ariane, who you know, and the whole crew there, and Patrick Hamilton Walsh. And I think every 30 seconds you came up, and then I said, you should join this room as well in the mornings. I told them all.
I'll try and jump in there today to hopefully we can re-summarize.
Yeah, it was really exciting stuff. And then Niklas Melinder was talking with Björn Ulvaeus from ABBA directly from London, and we were making fun of them because we said, oh, you haven't launched anything in a week. What's it now? And they had this fantastic new initiative that they have done together with their already existing music rights awareness. So I love when people like Björn, well, all in ABBA, are actually really doing things to what they can to make the future better for creators, leaving a legacy and using their name. And Niklas Melinder is hardly anyone knows his name, but he's really the one behind so many of all these things going. The same with the huge space project in Stockholm. And well, there's so much happening with the Pop House Group, which is owned by Björn and Benny from ABBA and others. Yep. I think Tyler knows everyone there, Paris and Dean.
Yeah.
So thanks for lifting that. So that's why I was pinging you like crazy yesterday.
Yeah, I think I'll with Ariane, we'll just make a Google sheet form and circulate it around and see how many people. I mean, we've been talking with Celia Line about the price.
Yes, they've already sorted that now. So they finally got back to the city of Stockholm. So
I don't know why that took them 2 months to tell us what the cost would be. And at that point, I'm like, you guys are just being typical Swedish 50 meetings to answer a simple question. We messaged
Well, this is where we go. Yeah,
huh?
Sorry. Yeah, I agree.
We called them 2 months ago and we're like, hi, we'd like to rent a boat. How much does it cost? 2 months later, okay. Like, I don't have time for people like that.
And it's like, we're talking about, and hey, everyone here, we're talking about a ferry and Tyler was talking about, like, can we book for 1,500 people? It's not like, hi, can we book a little tiny boat going across? This is a huge ferry.
A cruise ship,
from Stockholm. Yeah, cruise ship going from Stockholm to Helsinki. But I think it's, as it often is in sort of archaic organizations, that you finally find that right person. And I think Ariane finally found this right person, and he has got things going very quickly.
Okay, good.
But then you get to the next stage.
This is the problem. Is that Nordic folks are not incentivized by money. And this is,
no.
if you were in Thailand and like, hey, can I rent a cruise ship? You would have an answer before you finish this fucking sentence, before you finished asking the question.
Exactly. Or if you are like in the startup community, and the difference, as you know, with the incredibly switched on startup community and this whole world here, where if someone says, hey, do you want a meeting? We have an invest, they're all there. Doesn't matter if they're half asleep. And then you have that, all of us, and in Tyler's team over here, you should all know, everyone is like this. So suddenly it's like, what's the problem? We're just, the only thing missing now, we've got a whole week going with speakers and everyone, and who's here and done everything, and that they still haven't got back on sponsorship pricing. But now they have, and now the next steps that this great guy is trying to push through is the whole fantasy. We said, and they're like, can you send us the names? And we're like, maybe you could just make a code, or they can book directly,
precisely. As soon as they're like, okay, so we've decided, okay, yes, well, we will actually rent you a cruise ship. Can you please tell us all the names of everyone who's going to be on the boat? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I know. I'm like, my team is 5 people. That would be a full-time job just to collect all those names.
But that is crazy. Such a classic summry of of a classic like scenario. Exactly. I was like, no.
When the tech world meets the old school world, or whatever one should call it.
Yeah, that
was been fascinating. So I'll keep you posted on that one.
Yeah.
And we're here banging our heads for you.
Yes. I no longer have the stomach to deal with idiots. So it's like, I just realized, like, you're gonna ruin this whole thing. I can see it already. I know your type. you're gonna turn this into, and then I don't know what it is, but then they magically manage to rush at the last minute when the whole thing's gonna fall apart. Okay, and
Exactly. Then everything is done in 2 seconds, and
right.
everyone, and also, you guys, don't get us wrong. Everyone's super friendly and great, and well, it's not that they don't want to do it. That's why one is like, would be easier to just get it. No, we're not interested, right? But sometimes it's like a lot of us were saying. Sometimes it's like maybe we should just go and book our own tickets across
Tyler,
several
there should be no
ferries.
problem getting a cruise ship because I know a lot about the cruise industry. I used to follow it, and
I know
I
it should
actually
not be a problem. That goes without
No.
saying. You're
no,
you.
because the industry is now underutilized. A lot of the boats are not
Oh,
even being
trust me,
utilized.
I'm
Especially
painfully
now.
aware they have no business at all, which is why it's really bizarre.
Especially
It takes them
now.
2 months to answer one simple, very simple question: How much can I rent a cruise ship from you? How much would it cost? 2 weeks later, hello, can we get an answer, please? 2 more weeks later, hello, Earth to you. It's just
Yeah.
I being in Thailand where people are asking me, "Hey, do you want to rent a boat? Hey, you want to do this? Hey, you've got money. I want money. Can I get your money? Can I get your
I
money? Can I
know
get your
it's
money?"
so.
And you go into
And it's
Scandinavia and you're like, "Can I please give you money? Can I please give you money? Can I please give you money?" And their
well,
posture is like, "Oh, let's
well.
talk again in 2 months. I'm just
I'm on vacation.
they can't be
It's
bothered
like,
because they're not incentivized by money because that's just you know
and
the
Did you only
this is
try
in the
Did
middle.
you only try one line, or you tried a broker as
No, no,
opposed to
no.
going
I had
direct?
a group phone call with the city of Stockholm, with the cruise line, with all of the people from the cruise line on the call.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and
they,
our friends other friends at the city of Stockholm, they are like, they normally feel that their organization takes time, but that's because it's a government entity. You have all the procedures. Not people are very switched on, and they were like, "This is so slow compared to what we are used to."
then
and,
the
and
first
this is
step
in the
is,
pandemic.
but this is the downside. I mean, I'm just getting spoiled living in Thailand because in
Yeah.
Scandinavia, the first thought that goes through their mind is, let's make a long list of everything that can possibly go wrong. and
Yes.
and be worried about it and fret over it, and about how the risks and all the possible dangers, and does everyone know how to we need to know the names of everybody on the boat, and we need to know if they can swim, and if they have a letter from their if they have their wills written, and it's like, and what
Yeah.
foods are they allergic to, and it's like, are you fucking out of your and then in Thailand they don't give a fuck. They're like, just, you've got money, great, done. Deal's done. See you on. When are you doing it? 3 months from now, great. See you then. It's like,
And that's the same with India, of course, because
right,
as those of you who don't know, I'm half Indian, half Swedish, so I really am in when two worlds collide.
yeah,
And my mother is like laughing. She's like, "We can send a boat from India in the meantime. It would have been here already." And I said, "Yes, and this is the pandemic." And guys, we're talking about cruise liners who are normally absolutely packed with people 5 times a day from Stockholm to Helsinki, and the pandemic is zoom zero.
right,
It's very recently that Helsinki has even opened up to people coming from the rest of the Nordics.
right.
And yeah. And anyway, we can go on ranting about that forever, but I'll keep you posted.
Trust
And
me,
if
I can.
anyone,
Okay,
if
so
anyone is
Sorry,
able
Tyler.
to,
yeah,
once
Join
I
us.
Tyler,
can
bring
book
it to Turkey. Bring it to Turkey. You'll be on the Bosphorus before I knew what time it was.
this is the problem. Is
I
the
joined
rest of
late.
the rest of the world is like, can we please do stuff like that over here? Like, we would love to do a fucking conference about fucking startups over here in India. So it's like,
yeah, it would be
Tyler,
quicker to do it from
we
that's
even
the
were on
thing.
the
Sweden.
Here's
West
the
Coast
thing. If
too.
I did a conference about startups in India,
Oh yeah,
Modi
I'd
would
say
be
yes.
there. All the unicorns would be there. I get all
Yeah,
everyone there. They would air in. I mean, just to that point, even the startup event that I do in Stockholm, they bring over ministers from India on their own special Air India flight, and the
yeah,
ministers
yeah.
of Sweden don't come to the event, and the ministers from
No,
fucking India are flying in for the event. Just to give you an
I
idea,
know.
if I were to do trust me, they've begged me to do the event in India. And if I do
Yeah,
the event in
I
India
know.
and Modi shows up, what am I going to tell the Prime Minister of Sweden? Like,
Yeah.
hey, hey,
I moved the event that's 200 meters from you to another
exactly. Oh
country.
yeah, I'm hosting the exactly right. I mean, that was the big article in the big Swedish
Yeah.
political magazine Focus, where it's like, it's not, is it too hard for you to walk 100 meters from your
We
fucking
can send
office?
a limo. We can send a limo.
Yeah, I could
That's
I could roll
we
you.
always
I could
laugh at
carry
that.
you on my fucking back to the event. That's how close it is.
And
Anyway,
that's the same
don't get me
way back
started
in
on
the
that whole
UK.
rant. Yeah. Okay. So,
Well, we're very grateful. So you all can understand why we're so grateful that Tyler started these techniques in Stockholm. And also, you really got them to understand this about 2013 or whenever it was, that we were like, hey, you have startup people in Sweden here a few hundred meters from you as well. And you're still only flying. If it's going to California and Silicon Valley, that's easy. So you started, we were like, hey, we have companies, we have investors flying from Silicon Valley and Google to here
right.
to Tyler's meetup. Maybe you
Right.
can walk the 400 meters.
Right.
Anyway, enough ranting.
Yes.
It's great to be here, and I'm so happy that we're doing this. And if anyone, the actual tech week and everything happening around is super switched on and fantastic, and you are very well protected if you come on that ferry. So if you're
Yeah,
around,
don't worry.
come
Yeah,
to Stockholm.
Exactly right. No reason to be afraid. Everyone's done all the worrying for you on your behalf
Well, it's
before
going to
you
be
even get there.
okay. You're not going to get any allergic reactions.
And you come to Thailand and there's
Anyway.
people riding on top of the fucking boat, like, climbing up the smokestacks, and no one gives
Tyler,
a shit.
let's be real. Let's be real. When you show up 3 weeks, there's no boat.
Okay, so the
that
top.
doesn't happen here.
Tyler,
Yes.
Tyler, before we start the show, can I just mention one thing?
Yeah.
To everyone in the room, please understand that the room will be recorded and published. So if you don't wish to be recorded, please do not jump on stage.
But Cheryl, they see that automatically when they raise their hand to come on stage. They have to click a button that says, yes, I want to speak in the room. And on that page, it says the club rules, which says you agree to the recording of all that. So we're not going to do the public announcement thing. That's insulting to their intelligence.
I know. Jennifer, you have a comment on that?
Putting it in the rules is obvious consent. So, Tyler, up to you. How do you want to carry the room? But I don't think that's obvious.
This is why Tyler's the only moderator, and he invites people up, because by doing that, he closes the consent loop. He's not
4 months ago, when I added it to the club rules, and I intentionally made sure nobody was in the club group, and at some point, 4 months ago, when they added club rules,
not obvious. Every club has rules. Every club has rules. Everyone says consent to rules, and I know you can write those individually. Recording of people is a huge issue, and I'm not sure everyone's aware of that, and people reflexively agree to this. It's like terms of service, but it's a little bit bigger because people are worried about consenting to recording. So we've just brought this up because of the room this morning. Just bring it to your attention. And Chris, if I'm sure I consented to these rules way back, and I'm on the stage all the time. I wouldn't have even read the rules. So,
hell, I go back and I listen to the podcasts.
I think it's great.
But okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Wait. If it's not being on it, there's no reason not to bring it up. If it's contested, no reason not to bring it up. I'm just saying people should be a little bit more aware. It's like terms of service and bearing it 30 pages down. Just want to be.
Yes. This is not 30 pages. It's not even a page. It's 3 sentences.
And Tyler,
we announced this. We
sorry.
announced this on Goodwill. So because we have a fantastic room this morning in the US time, and it was really nice. So Jennifer and Alexandra contributed a lot to that room. But to respect them, we have decided not to publish the recording. So I'm sorry about it. If you missed it, you've missed it. So yeah, if you have future rooms, just join our rooms live, because if the speakers do not consent to it, we will not publish it.
Sure, I'm not saying that. I'm saying people just need to be more aware, and that may not be the greatest awareness. And so bringing it up, as long as people should know this, is fine. You can say, "Hey, reminder," or "Hey, reminder to people," because people click on this. That's all I'm saying.
Tyler, if I can just comment 1 second, and you know this from teaching in the inner city in LA, I think more people in the West are just getting, I don't even want to say dumber, or using an excuse. So you've done all the due diligence.
Delegating responsibility. That's the word you're looking for.
So Jennifer, I think this will continue. That's all I'm saying. And saying it every now and then, like Cheryl did, I see no wrong with that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't allow any,
you'd be surprised. Yes, LS, what you're going to find is this is a uniquely American phenomena.
Of course, of course. Just like, hold on,
The
just like
rest
you
of the
can't get a
world,
vote.
the rest of the world is making jokes about this. Like we were making jokes about Scandinavians with all of their careful safety and all of that. That we can joke about that about Scandinavians. The rest of the world jokes about Americans delegating responsibility and the need for, you know, people. This is a perfect example where they're not taking responsibility as, you know, intelligent adults. We can't even assume that people can read or are intelligent or can make decisions for themselves. And Americans like, you didn't put the spoon in my mouth and help me massage my throat to help me swallow it. Hence, you're responsible for my, you know, consumption of this thing. It's like the rest of
You didn't warn me to not be a jackass and not
right.
say anything that might get me in trouble legally, whether it be about viruses or anything, like, dude, I didn't know, bro, that it was broadcast and recorded, even though like everything I do is technically being broadcast into space forever. Like, Jesus Christ, grow up.
Well, I'm just saying it's a common thing for Europeans to make this
Chris,
criticism about Americans.
let me just bring this back though.
Yep.
I know that we're being recorded. I will always defer to anything I say in public is being recorded. I just think it's giving people notice, and this has come up in other rooms. In fact, today about people that didn't know
Well,
and they wanted the recordings removed. But
you know what I'm going to
here's
add? I'm going to add to the club rules also. You agree that all your devices are hacked.
okay, fair enough.
If you're not by the way, because if you're not aware that all your devices are very likely hacked and all of your information is being shared everywhere, then you're not intelligent enough to be on stage.
Tyler, I would give that. I will defer. I'm with you, and whether it's American or universal, I will defer and agree that if you don't think you're being recorded, but I know it's a sensitive issue with people, and for us to find out that this morning's podcast was actually, or room was recorded intentionally to be released as a podcast was a surprise to us as mods, and I wasn't directed to go back and look at the rules. It's like terms of service. I agree with you. There's for and against, totally for and against, and for people this is. On any platform, again, look at the rules that apply to what you're doing, the terms of service, as well as here the club room. But if it's not nefarious, there's no reason to advise people maybe once during a 3-hour session or whenever you think it's worthwhile to not for us to bring this up. And then the other one, Chris, it's not only what you say. So I'm not going to say something in a room of 400 people or 20 people that I know it's universe perpetuity. However, there are other things around this, to Tyler's point of being hacked. Some people are sensitive about their voice being recorded, etc. So just raising that.
I'll take that one step further.
I'll take back
by the way, just for context, the only rooms that are recorded under tech news are the tech news around the world rooms that we're in now. I don't record any of the other rooms. All of the side rooms that anyone has ever done, I've never recorded a single one of them. And I have no interest in recording them. So if somebody is recording those rooms, then they need to get permission from the people who are doing those rooms.
Hey, Tyler, why don't you just put that little red dot on this room like some other rooms do that shows like it's recorded? That's like, I guess, what Clubhouse initially did. So then nobody can say anything. You got this big red dot, it becomes very obvious.
I think it should be assumed. It's like fair game. If like this was only broadcast in America, the rules of that game would be different. But because like globally, it's just you should assume that it's very possible someone can be recording.
I assume the Chinese government's listening to it. That's my assumption.
Correct.
Yeah.
By the way, the Chinese government is listening to every comment, and you're likely not able to get into China as a result of being in this room. Maybe we should put that in the title too.
You guys ever? Hey, you guys ever?
It's the acts of people, and it's who's doing it. Yes, you should assume all of that, and yes, they are doing it. And Clubhouses, it's not even hacking or scraping; it's the APIs are wide open, so you should assume that everyone is doing that or listening to it. However, to be commercially recorded, and again, Tyler, you may not be doing it, but Cheryl just told us that every room under the Tech News banner is recorded. And
they're not.
That was a maybe Cheryl was misstated
wrong about that.
No, I say some. Most.
None. No, only tech newsrooms are.
He meant record rooms.
If Heyman records his own, if he's the room creator and he records his own rooms, then he needs to tell everybody that he's doing that. Essentially,
that's what I'm saying. What was
he
just
uses the red dot.
He does.
If it's not nefarious, tell people.
I'm not recording the Wednesday like
right.
the tech news.
Nor am I. I don't. I only record tech newsrooms.
Ron, if you are, if it's not a nefarious reason, then there's no reason not to warn people about this. So again, yes, assume that this is being recorded. Always assume that someone in the audience is recording parts of this. But to have it actually intentionally recorded
Right.
for release, podcast name is something that should be released or made public if we're doing it. You could just put a red dot up there. People want to know if they're speaking. So some people are sensitive with their voice, their content they're speaking, etc.
Yeah,
Well,
but
just
anyway, it's a
if
good
you say
reminder,
Jennifer's
anything.
giving you
Jennifer.
really good
It's a
legal
very
advice,
good reminder.
Tyler. I mean, we've been talking practically, but Jennifer's legal advice is very sound, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
there's a
very,
pop-up to
so she
join
will.
on stage that says you agree to consent of your voice being used for any recording or publication. And it's not like it's buried in the terms of service. You can't not see it when you click
It's
the I
just like
agree.
guys, it's like literally go to Spotify. It's like show 300. For God's like, that's why I'm like, it's like really. You don't cover your own butt. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're
Oh,
talking
Chris,
about when you come
disagree.
up here.
Disagree completely. Chris, you and I like align on so many things, but disagree 1,000%. Do you read the? Maybe you do. Maybe you read the 30-page
But
Well,
transcript.
you can't use that
When
argument. This is
Tyler
not
Who
tells
30.
is
you
This
that he's
speaking?
pushing it
in this
out,
case, it's not 30 pages. It's just right there. There's a pop-up to join on stage that says you
But
agree to
Tyler,
recording, and you say I agree.
club
like
rules are.
just for an example, Tyler, can you drop me down so I could see it?
Did you not see it when you
It
came
can
back
go.
down just now?
My argument here is that most people don't open it, and so I'm just saying why. Like, it shouldn't be such a contentious issue. I'm just saying, both for etiquette reasons in this world of digital etiquette and digital hygiene, for etiquette reasons and for legal reasons, no one's going to sue you. I don't know, Tyler. They'll like. It's not going to be a law, right? It's just going to be a complaint or a shadow ban or who knows what, or a takedown notice on something. But
Well,
I'm just saying, if it's a good use, you want to be upfront with people just to create that kind of
Sure.
social community. So
Yeah,
that's all I'm bringing.
there's no effort to obfuscate it, and there's an effort to bring it to people's attention. But LS's point is dead on, which is Americans notoriously don't do the hygiene that Europeans do, which is inform themselves of their decisions. Chris, what happened when you joined back on here?
Unfortunately, the way Clubhouse works is after you've joined the stage once, unless you boot me, meaning like you have to
Right,
kick me off.
right.
Like I'm not going to see the TOS again. But
He's
every time
correct.
I join
I
the show,
didn't
I
see
join
it
fresh.
either.
Right. Well,
Every
because you've
time I
been,
join
as
the
Chris's
show, I
point,
join
you've been
fresh.
on before, yeah.
Yeah, Chris, did you print screen just now?
No, but what I'm
No,
getting
but
at,
I'm sorry, Cheryl, and this is LS. It is correct. Chris is right. If you've already been in a room, and to Jennifer's
No,
point,
I'm not challenging him.
no,
I'm just
I
asking
know.
him
I
if he
just want
can
to,
screen it to
but I,
show it to
but
them.
I want to. I just want to go to her point so we can go to tech news because I think this will continue, in my opinion, in the U.S. because of trends and everything, and so you won't see it, and then someone can claim it, and then at the end of the day, Tyler, because I love what you're doing, that's why I joined. Clubhouse is based in the U.S., so maybe a
Tyler,
disclosure every
can
now.
you bring? Sorry, real quick. Can you bring up Anthony Moose? He's got the
Yes.
screenshot.
Yeah, I know Tony, by the way. He's a partner of mine,
But
Anthony
I'm
Tony's
not
Moose.
dope.
debating whether they were notified of the rules or not, you guys. That's not the debate. The debate is whether that was like adequate notice. And so I'm just saying, I don't care. Go ahead and release what I said this morning. And Alexandra said the same thing.
No,
We're
no,
fine.
I
We're concerned
disagree.
that others
I
have not known.
disagree. I think if a side room outside of tech news around the world, if whoever's the moderator, kind of like Alexandra and you were the
It
hosts of
wasn't.
that room,
It was
it,
Tyler. It was a news banner. That's why it's coming up here. I wouldn't have raised it otherwise. And
no,
that's
no,
why
no. My
Cheryl brought
point
Yeah.
is regardless
it was
of regard
the tech banner.
that if somebody was like that room yesterday, that, and just to be very specific, that NFT room yesterday that everyone was very fond of, if the people who are really leading that conversation, and it was intended for Alexandra and yourself to lead that conversation, if you don't want that published, it should not be published. Kind of end of discussion.
Yep.
No, and we're just saying neither of us disputes that what we said. We're not happy with people not being notified. The fact that that wasn't brought to our attention means the audience may not have known. So that was it. So that's
No,
all.
because Jennifer, it's because you and Alexandra are on the host list, so you jump on the stage automatically. But whoever come out after that, they all have to click.
I'll just
If you
tell us
guys want me to check it,
verbally say it. If you want to verbally say it to people, I want to give adequate notice. And I
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rules But I think we're calling this full circle. I think everyone should always assume they're being recorded. Yes, fully
Yeah,
agree
yeah,
on.
but it's a good reminder,
But I want to be
Jennifer. So
clear.
moving forward, I will do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but for you,
we're happy
yeah,
to notify people, and that's fine. And that's fine. I'm not against doing it. Just letting people know what they're doing.
yeah,
Thank you.
I know. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. It's
Jennifer,
definitely goodwill.
we agree on a million things, and the beautiful thing about debate is you can agree to disagree. And so I think here we agree to disagree. If you look at Anthony's thing, it's there's only two rules. The first rule, might I add, is that ladies first, and we try to observe that to the best of our ability and with all of our heart. We love you, ladies. You're leaders of the world. Help inform us on a good policy about this, Jennifer. I don't want to fight with you about it. I want to find a solution. But look at the rule. Like at number 2, what does it say? In Anthony's profile pic. And I love you, Jennifer. See ya.
Look at the rules, Chris. So for me, it can be in the rules, and we can always go back to that. But for etiquette, like there's rules and legal in that area, and then there's just etiquette and social like camaraderie and how we social behavior. So I for my clubs, honestly, and this is I'm an attorney. I click through all those rules, right? And I assume everything I say in Clubhouse is recorded. That's me. I would be pit. I don't know, but not everyone does. And I was literally in a room this morning with people who were not aware or have a belief that everything isn't recorded. So for me, if I'm hosting a room, I just want to let people know. Like I want to say, hey, it's being recorded, potentially used later. And
Yep, yep.
I think
Hi,
Tyler,
Ken.
if
Hi,
you want
it's
me to
Netta.
check it on my Android phone where I've never been up on stage on Tech News from
Yeah,
that
Anthony
profile.
just
So
Anthony just did
okay,
that for you. Look at his photo.
yeah,
yep,
okay.
yep.
If you
So,
click on the three
Jennifer,
dots, the
Jennifer,
rules
to
are appearing like
yep,
right away. If you click on the
yeah.
dots,
So,
club
so,
rules
so
are right there.
Yeah, so Jennifer, to answer your concern, it's only you and Alexandra because you're always on the host list, so you never get to see it every time you come on stage. But the rest of the people, when they come on stage, they have to click the button.
I know, but Cheryl, for me,
Yeah,
comfortably,
but I will. But of
rule.
course, I understand what you say. I will definitely do it moving
Cheryl, if we
forward.
put the
Yeah.
red dot in the title, that to me is notice.
Yep.
The red dot to me indicates that you
Yep.
should know that. To others, it may or may not. They may not understand what it is.
Yep.
But to me, if I'm going to be hosting something, so that's all I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. What's reasonable notice?
Yep. Yep.
Right?
And I've already put
You're,
it in
yeah,
the chat.
that what
And
you're going to find is a whole bunch of Americans exclusively who are going to claim, "Oh, I had no people who have joined Clubhouse in the past 3 months have no idea what that means," and they're going to say, "That's not what do you mean that's notice. I had no idea what that meant."
Tyler, totally agree with your point on the rules.
Yeah.
There's different ways to notice, so totally agree. Totally, I'm just saying what's considered. Like you can look at your
Yes.
club rules. But we gave you notice, and I'm not. I'm just saying for me that I would be. I prefer if especially if I'm hosting a moderating room, to give more clear notice. And for me, that might be the red dot. And if they don't understand that,
yeah.
question. I'm not, or maybe we would
Yes.
notify them at the beginning. I don't know, but I'm
Okay.
just saying.
Tyler will think about that, and then
No,
let's move on.
I'm not going to think about that. I've already thought about all of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Move
here's the
on to
thing.
tech
And,
news.
and, and I'll, well, please let's move on. But the counterpoint is there's no listener loss. The listener's not recorded. It's us.
Correct.
This isn't
But
nefarious
people jumped on
Facebook
stage,
scraping
Chris.
the
That's what
data.
we're
This
worried
is
about. People came on stage without knowing their without being informed, other than having gone through the rules, and maybe they went through them earlier. But I think we're like beating this to death. I'm just saying there's notice and there's reasonable notice, and it's not just putting it in the club rules, in my view, and what I want to be associated with, and also to let people know. And if there's not a reason not to let, like, if there's no reason not to let people know. I think this is great content. I think it's super great content. I'm actually glad it's being recorded. I think this room provides great content, and a lot of the sub rooms provide great content. I'm not against recording them. I just want to let people know because a lot of people are sensitive for various reasons, both what they say
agree.
and also voices recorded, etc.
Agree
Tyler,
100%.
it's Bibi. Can
Yes.
I clarify one thing?
Yeah.
The club rules only appear if you are not the member of the club. So if you already joined this club, every time you are on the stage, you won't see it. That's how it works. So if you are not a member of the clubs, it will appear every time if you raise your hand and accept it by the moderator. That's how it
Interesting.
works.
So I see. So if you somehow joined the club before ever appearing on stage, you would you would still have to agree to the rules the first time you come on stage. Then once you're a member, they stop appearing on any future appearances on stage. If you're not a member of the club, it appears every time you join on stage?
Yes, that's how it works. Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
That's good finding.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, VP.
Thank you, BB. The
And,
first...
and by the way, Tyler, putting up that red dot is not mutually exclusive from the rules that you've already got. You could do both. You don't have to choose between one and
Sure.
the other.
Yeah. Let him think about it again.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
Tyler,
start.
let's move on.
I'm gonna start adding an extra line in the title of the room that says, "Dear Americans, everything you say is being recorded by the CCP,
Tyler,
and
just a
you're
red dot.
likely not to be able to visit China anymore after speaking in this room."
No,
And
that's not it.
don't
Just
transit
profiling.
in Hong Kong as well.
Which they totally are. They're using all this to profile you. It would be super clear. But just a red dot, right? To remind people. And this is more
Yeah, that's easy.
Unfortunately, for many Americans, even that isn't sufficient. So it's kind of a
Unfortunately, we live in a society where people don't pay attention to
correct.
detail,
We're
and
pandering to their stupidity,
yeah.
which I really don't want to participate in that.
So now we have to make things very, very obvious.
This is, as I said,
We call that idiot proof. Idiot proof.
Yes.
I mean, we're in the tech room, so for most people who are in here who are interested in
You'd
the
expect people to be smart in the tech room.
That's my point.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know
A
about the
reminder
smart part,
now:
but
if you don't want to be recorded, please jump down the stage. Jump off the stage.
I think anyone in the tech room pretty much assumes that with technology, I mean, everything that we do is probably being recorded, but I also understand the other aspect as well, that it's just a common courtesy for some people, because some people make it pinged in and they'll just jump in the room to see what's going on, and that's it. Now you have those 3 dots on the top of the page where you can look at the club rules, anytime you want, or the page room, the room rules, whichever time you want. But at the same time, most people really don't, American or not.
No,
They
it's
just get
Netta.
pinged
It's
by
more
a
than
friend
that.
and they
When
jump in.
when somebody raises their hand to speak on stage and they're accepted, they get a pop up that says, "You must agree to these club rules to speak on this stage." And rule number 2 is you understand that this is going to be recorded, and they click "I accept" to speak on stage. It's not just buried somewhere in the club rules. You have to click "I accept" to speak on the stage. You have to accept the club rules to speak on stage.
I'm
Tyler,
assuming
if I
everyone.
can, I'm sorry, if I can pop in and just put a nail in this coffin. There has been people from Stanford, a professor of mine, well, not mine, a colleague, who was blind and impaired, and I guess Jennifer didn't hit that.
Now you bring
Yeah,
up a
see,
valid point.
exactly. So sometimes saying it audio is just,
That's a great
that's
point.
all. And then it's just done, man, because
No.
I really don't like to use time, which is the most valuable thing. I love
Yes.
all you guys in tech news, but this political shit, I'm about solutions in tech and solving problems.
Yeah.
Not about the nicks and knacks of what can be interpreted, but
You know
I just
what,
wanted to give that.
LS slam dunk.
you bring up a great point, my friend. I'm super sensitive to that, which is
Slam dunk.
I kind of regret Chris, who used to join from time to time. He was vision impaired, and there was somebody else as well. I'm trying to recall who it was, what his name. They were fantastic.
He's also visually impaired, right?
Yeah. So, and you're right. I don't know who's visually impaired who joins on stage, and we have had a couple. Unfortunately, they have been gone for a very long time. But I absolutely will, if I have any sense that somebody's vision impaired, will make it a point to verbally address the issue with them. So anyway, that's a great point.
Just to be clear on this, I'm not blind, but I am visually impaired. And if you are totally blind, you will be using VoiceOver, and
Right.
VoiceOver will read whatever pops up on the screen.
Yeah.
So I think we are, on that sense, especially in a non-visual app as this, you're absolutely good, and you don't need to kind of inform the blind people about anything in Clubhouse, because it will be read out to them, and if not, it's because they are using some other means, or they don't care, like a lot of other people who just click yes. But I think if you make small changes to the rules, then everybody will have to agree again, I would assume.
Oh, right.
So you can just add
if you
another
update
dot,
the rules.
and
Yeah, that's a great point.
we will
Or
have to do it
put the
again
red
if
dot
you
in the
want
title,
to.
Tyler. This might be a good one for what do you call it? The the guessing where you have people vote, who knew they were being recorded for a podcast or for a release versus just China?
It's not. I don't think this is about getting mad about the past. We have to find a solution going forward, right? And you know,
possible because it's tech news around the world. We have people from all around the world.
I'm
So
just
this
saying,
is
looking at what makes sense in the, you've got to look at the
because
context. The
the
rules
red.
are one thing, Chris. I don't think everyone reads the rules. I will just say, like, based on my own experience, I don't think that, but I think it's reasonable of you to think that. I'm just saying, I'm
I'll
giving
play devil's
feedback to Chris if
advocate.
you want to
Like
correct it. I think
no,
a
I'll
red
play devil's
dot is the
advocate. Every
common notice on Clubhouse. I do think that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
etiquette they're using.
Okay, but let's
Maybe you can
appreciate that
just
Jennifer said
once
all
an hour,
this.
just
Yeah,
maybe in
Jennifer
just
said
once an
all this
hour.
out of good faith and intention. So please appreciate
same
her.
here.
Thank you.
Same,
Maybe you
absolutely
can just
same here.
request everyone to look at the club rules once an hour. Just say, just FYI, there, the room has rules. If you can please look at it on the top.
Yes, because that's important for females too. We need to respect your voice, and I jumped over you, so I should be booted.
Maybe it might
Not
be cool.
or just the red
Chris,
dot. That's
you're
the
good.
common nomenclature on Clubhouse for recording, especially for podcasts. Everyone should assume they're being recorded. And in something like this, I'm going to assume that this could be released anywhere. My voice could be modulated, diced, and cut and diced. But that said, for a podcast or for other room, I think putting a red dot in is Clubhouse's standard.
Okay, idiot proof, idiot proof.
I think you're only aware of that because you've been here more than 6 months. So the people who've been here less than 4 months don't even know that.
Can I hate to
Magda.
belabor this point further. Sorry. I hate to
Meg, yeah,
belabor
go
this
ahead.
point further. Yeah. But I'm curious because, my research team, I mean, we're going into different digital spaces to try to understand how people talk about digital health and human rights.
Mhm.
And we had a big debate about this, about whether you had to, each time you go into a space, do you need to say, hi, I'm a researcher and I'm looking at these issues. So I put it on my profile. And then I only actually formally request, permission to study a space if it's a closed space. And so is this a closed space or an open space? I mean, I assume there are probably other people here who are also doing research of different kinds, right? So I'm
You
just
can
kind of
assume it's a
curious,
public
not to
space.
stretch this discussion out further, but it does open up a lot of interesting questions.
Okay. So the top story of today, Tuesday, September 28th, is still the Instagram pausing work on Instagram Kids after criticism from parents, experts, regulators, policymakers, and everybody basically. There's nobody who's actually in favor of Instagram Kids, so you can update that headline to say everybody, criticism from everybody about Instagram Kids. So, and interestingly, Adam Sari from Instagram took to Twitter to say we're pausing Instagram for Kids, although we believe we're pausing Instagram Kids, although we believe building it is the right thing to do. And although I wonder why he felt the need to double down when the rest of the world is against him on that. But
I think I came up with a reason, Tyler, because we spoke about it this
yeah,
morning. But I think he did that so that they can still take the position they haven't done anything wrong, but they're pausing it because of social complaints or whatever. But they don't. But by saying what he's saying, he's not admitting that they believe they did anything wrong.
right.
They might be
Face
discovering that protecting minors, individuals under 18, is a legal nightmare.
Was that Shahin? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oops, Shane. So, protecting minors, people under the age of 18, depending where you are around the world, is kind of a legal nightmare because anyone can say anything, and then fault would likely fall on the provider of said minor platform.
But one credit to Instagram, this is an example of how they can reassert themselves as a good actor, right? That by not releasing Instagram Kids, I think that's why he shouldn't have said, well, we still think we should, but we're gonna not do it. I think they should say, the market has sent a loud signal, and we respect. We want to make sure that we're demonstrating we're a good actor in the community of civilizations, and so we read you loud and clear. So it's we're not going to do that. So I feel like Facebook, from I'm fantasizing because I doubt this is possible. It's kind of 10 years too late on this, that if I were running Facebook, which I would never want to do, but I think the situation is they need to reposture their entire way that they engage the public, like this, and do it more like that. Like, we found out that the body image issue, so here's 3 new things that we're going to do to hopefully address this, and in doing so, you show that you're genuinely eager to make products and services that are not harming society and that are a benefit to society or what have you. So, because the current feeling is that Facebook, the current sense, if you took a sentiment analysis around kind of Facebook and Instagram, is that they are the cigarettes. That I mean, everyone's making this metaphor, and it's sticking, which is Facebook is the new big tobacco, and they know it's bad for people, and they don't care, and they're just going to take the money, and the politicians are going to have to regulate it like big tobacco, and they knew all along it was bad, and they're a cancer on society, and they just knew, and they just didn't care. And how do you overcome that? It's easier for them to overcome it than it was for big tobacco. There was not much that the cigarette companies could do to change their product to make them healthy, for lack of a better word. Facebook, on the other hand, could actually. They actually can change their product to stop it from having the negative impacts that that make them analogous to cigarettes. So, but I would bet everything that they're not going to make the appropriate changes to be accepted by society, in part because people like smoking, and they know people like smoking. They probably don't have to make the changes, and it's a really difficult issue. But anyway, I applaud them not doing the Instagram Kids, and I think they should do more things like that when they're confronted with kind of overwhelming blowback, that people are kind of really clear that they don't like these egregious Ken, your mic's open.
Yeah. You opened it for a reason. I had a question. Can somebody explain what Instagram for Kids was supposed to be anyway? Because it just occurred to me, and I'm just Googling this stuff, that, I didn't even realize that like a teenager, like an upper level teenager, couldn't get on Instagram. And apparently, depending on what country you're in, the age requirement may only be 16. In fact, in some countries, it might only be 13. And then they've got different protections to make sure that adults apparently can't message people under a certain age. I guess it depends on the country. So this idea, apparently, that somehow people under 18 couldn't get on is, I mean, I'm just trying to understand what the issue is now. So what is Instagram for Kids? For like little kids? Is that what we're talking about, as opposed to 15-year-olds? I'm just curious if anybody knew.
I think you still have to be 13 to get on. So this would be like the 13 to 16 or 18 kind of demographic. I think Michelle might know the details on that. Because the COPA laws apply to, you have to be 13 anyways, yeah?
No, I just wanted to say it's meant for younger kids, but the idea is also to have like a full parental control. So basically, it's like a co-own account with parents having full access to that as well, and with less features than the adult version of Instagram.
I've seen there's a Facebook Messenger for kids, and that I've seen that, and that's actually very well done. Like a ton of parental controls and everything. Yeah, I mean that's a nice framework for how to make kid-friendly products out there. So it is possible, and they've done it themselves. So anyway, the second biggest story, Casey Newton, who yesterday did a tweet that Facebook should release all of the documents behind the Wall Street Journal's Facebook files to the public, has now written a blog post titled precisely that. So he took his tweet that he got popular, he got a lot of retweets, and so he's, being a content creator, he saw an opportunity and he made a blog post out of it. And he says Facebook should release the documents behind the Wall Street Journal's Facebook files to the public, as they are likely to come out anyway, and provide the raw data to researchers. And he's being a little cheeky in doing this, because when he tweeted this yesterday, Adam Stone from Facebook responded to his tweet saying, we're sharing those decks with Congress in advance of this hearing that's coming up this week, and we're evaluating how we can release it to the public. So he knows that Facebook already knows that has already said to him that they intend to do exactly that. So Casey, you're being a bit of a schmuck here. You've already been told by Facebook they're planning to do that. You're trying to score, you're desperate. You're a little thirsty for some clicks. And so, yeah, influencers are going to influence. So the next one is that a new one from The Verge. Facebook offers a metaverse definition. Will invest $50 million over 2 years in programs and external research to, quote unquote, responsibly build the next computer platform. Okay, and this points to what I was saying before. This is kind of good neighbor behavior, right? Good actor-ish behaviors. The problem is, we have, and Nick Clegg from Facebook tweets about it. He says, the metaverse isn't a single product one company can build alone, and it won't be built overnight. This gives us time to ask the difficult questions about how it should be built and collaborate with policymakers, industry, and academia to guide our work. Fantastic. That's beautiful. That's what a good actor does. And kudos. I'm even going to break out my rare clap applause sound effect to applaud Facebook. That's right. This is what an ethical company does. Brilliant. Totally brilliant. The problem is it's going to take a whole lot of that going forward for Facebook to overcome the kind of years of mistrust that's been developed with the public. And let's hope you're able to pull this off, because you're going to have to overcome quite a bit of systemic mistrust now on behalf of a whole lot of people, because but let's be honest, the reason that Facebook is doing this is because there are other headlines out yesterday. Where is it? I have one in my stack of upcoming headlines. Is that it? Where'd it go? That say precisely that Facebook's metaverse is a dystopian nightmare. Those headlines came out yesterday from some notable publications, and that's the problem. Is there's enough legacy mistrust that kind of derailed to some extent the fintech finance, Diem coin that Facebook had a grand vision for. And boy, could that have been an amazing opportunity, and still potentially could. The unique challenge that Facebook has in doing their own global currency is overcoming this legacy of mistrust that they've developed, and now that's sort of their financial karma that they have to overcome, and that's why they need to double down on this type of initiatives of Nick Clegg's tweet here in this headline of doing the proper pre-work on establishing the metaverse with other actors, and they need to do the same with their currency and everything else to regain all of that trust. So I guess those opportunities are so huge. The metaverse, the metaverse opportunity is so huge, and the global currency opportunity that Facebook has with the developing world is also so huge that it's worth it for them to do the hygiene and to overcome the inherent mistrust. But anyway, I applaud them. Although they don't really have a choice, they got to do it. They got to do it, because otherwise they're going to get buried in those headlines like yesterday that said precisely that the metaverse is a dystopian nightmare waiting to happen, because here's all the reasons Facebook is not to be trusted. Good luck, Facebook. You're like, that person on January 1st going back to the gym to get themselves back in shape. Go for it. I applaud anyone on January 1st who goes to the gym. I hope you stick to it. I hope you make it. I hope you do that body transformation. Let's see if Facebook can redeem themselves. It's going to be interesting to watch. Next one. From Vice, the researcher who disclosed the 3 iOS 0-day vulnerabilities last week, which I think was on Friday or Saturday. I think Saturday. And just so for those who don't know, a cybersecurity researcher found 3 0-day vulnerabilities in iOS and alerted Apple back in May, I recall. And at that time, they revealed that there was 4. And for those who don't know, 0 days mean a vulnerability into your phone where anyone can get into your phone and you never know it, and they have access to everything. So those are very important for operating systems to address those immediately with a quickness. And this researcher did. And they said, hey, Apple, I found some 0 days. Go ahead and here's my bank account. You can send me a nice tip jar. Thank you. That's worth an incredible amount of money, by the way. Apple should be sending that person maybe $1 million each for those, right? So, but strangely, Apple didn't do really anything. He addressed 4 of them. They fixed one of the 4. And then in the update in the operating system, you updated your operating system. They fixed one of the 4 vulnerabilities. They didn't even acknowledge in the update. When they do updates, they say what's in the update. In this update, it includes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. In their update, it didn't say we're plugging one of these vulnerabilities. And this guy is like, oh, WTF. One of the things you fixed in this update was a 0 day. You're not even acknowledging that you're fixing a 0 day that I shared with you. And you didn't fix the other 3 that I've told you about. What's going on, Apple? And if you don't do the right thing, I'm going to go public and let the public know all about this. You've been warned. Fix it. So he's trying to put pressure on them to fix these 0 days because he knows if he found them, very likely other cybersecurity researchers are also finding them. And these other ones are probably not friendly Americans pointing them out to you. They're probably...
Tyler?
Yes.
Can I give the room informed 2 minutes after you're finished? I'm
Sure.
sorry to cut you off
No problem.
mid-sentence.
So then that's the background context that you need for this headline. The headline says, the researcher who disclosed the 3 iOS 0 days last week says Apple apologized for the delayed response and said it is still investigating the vulnerabilities. Awesome. There you go. There's a nice update. Apple apologized for the delay in responding to the researcher, but experts think Apple needs to do better. Fair enough. Apple still has, going back to our argument, my whole rant about Facebook and their kind of systemic trust issue that they are, back trying, eagerly to earn. Apple gets the benefit of the doubt still. Generally, people still trust Apple. And so Apple can say, it was a mistake. We apologize. Right thing to do, by the way. Hey, apologies are fantastic. Okay, that's nice. Apple's apologizing. They're recognizing and apologizing. Fantastic. And let's see how they deal with it. And they're able to do that because they generally still have the trust of people, although that trust is starting to, like Facebook, like Google, Apple's also starting to find themselves in a less trusted position than they have been historically. People are starting to become much less trustful of big tech in general. And
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
Apple 15 has the new release actually has a lot of bugs and vulnerabilities in it, and these big platforms are not always willing to release this information, but a lot of them are leaking data. So you've got things like, I think it's Verizon's releasing data, and they're releasing it out of some of these clouds. Their cloud platforms are leaky, so and they aren't. And you've got these hackers that are coming in, and it's very frustrating to them because they're white hat, they're good hackers, and they're like, we're showing you these vulnerabilities and you will not respond to us. And that's why some of them are going to press and we're hearing about them. But there's these leaks, as you're noticing or commenting on, they're pretty all over and systemic. And when companies are deciding how to address it or publicize it, there are a lot of considerations from what's really going on, trying to figure
Right.
that out, how to address it internally. Will that help? If we address it internally first without discussing it? It turns out, I think Andrew, who I think is in this room frequently,
Yeah.
discussed, he's got studies on the reputational damage, which is a big issue, but it actually turns out it's not. You'll recover in 2 years. There's just a lot of considerations there, as you're pointing out, but and Apple's known for their security, but yes, and I hear 15 has a lot of vulnerabilities. So exactly as you're
So
pointing out.
Carl's in the room. He can check my receipts. So this app, you can have great application. I'm sorry, you can have great iOS level security and still be dealing with a very poorly designed app from a security perspective. Like, let's think about this app. Let's zoom out. How do you log in? With your phone number, right?
This app is full of bugs. This app has open
No,
API.
no, no. Let
This
just
app
zoom
is
out.
like
Let's zoom
huge.
out. Let's look at how easy this is. You use your phone number to log in. What's protecting your phone number? Early on in the app, it was a 4-digit code. Now it's moved on to a 6-digit code, but it's still numeric. You can pound this server in like what, Carl? 2.2 milliseconds?
It depends if they've got throttling protections,
It's
but
not
yeah.
even that. It's not even that.
Yeah,
Chris,
exactly.
this has open APIs. I mean, anything on
Oh
this
yeah,
app
no,
can
but
be on Apple.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying, look, they can once they get your access code, it allows them to do a lot of things. you know, that yellow dot up top, that informs you're being recorded right now. Or you're speaking. You're not seeing it right now, but the second you release your mic, you're going yellow. That's Apple's way of telling you you're being
Chris,
recorded or you're broadcasting.
people should assume anything they say anywhere is open perpetuity universe.
No,
All
but
of that.
I'm not even saying the record. I'm not saying this isn't about recording. This is about poor app security. I love this app,
I
but
love this app. I
there's a
agree.
reason why I'm running it on an old iPhone 7 Plus that only uses cellular signal. Once they know your phone number, they have your IP, they can pound your shitty router, they can get in, they can plant shit, you know?
Yeah, and so
Like
for
this is not child's
the audience
play.
that understand this, like what Chris is saying is not crazy. It's not undone. They're already doing
No,
it
it's
right. They've
elevated
got open
rights
API,
permission. It's
and
elevated
they're
rights. It's elevated rights. Once you get on this
right.
platform, and this is why Tyler has the ability to boot people, because there's trolls all the time that come on to disrupt the stage. That's the like superficial level. But
But
there's
as a
literally
group,
people that come up on stage in groups and try to get the master key, not of just the room, but of Clubhouse. Because I'm guaranteeing you on the front end, it's a number. And where's Pierre from Club Deck? He'll
but
let us
that's
know.
but
Is is the
individual.
is the
Chris,
key is the
individual
password cached or not?
API.
Is the question.
There, this the APIs to Clubhouse are open, and so your data from here is flowing out, and you're
Of course,
explaining to people
but
what.
I'm
Yeah,
saying there's things like they can. So once they have access to your device, they can do with something called a buffer underrun. Have you ever been talking on stage and all of a sudden you go red for no reason? You didn't move anywhere. Someone's pounding the shit out of the server with your credentials at that moment to block you from talking. I've witnessed it happen to me personally. I can't prove it because I don't have access to the logs, but that's how it would happen topologically. I'll
yeah,
shut up now.
we're seeing it happening, Chris, because I've been in a lot of cybersecurity rooms, and they're seeing things
That
like
that would
that.
affect everybody. If they attack the server, it would affect everybody. And I think
Can
you
we
mean
don't
buffer
interrupt?
overrun.
Yeah, don't interrupt Jennifer, please. Let her finish. Jennifer.
No. I was just agreeing with what they said. So go on with more details. Thanks, Cheryl.
Yep, Jonathan.
Well,
I mean, if you're
so
attacking the server, you're attacking everybody,
No,
and
they're
it's
attacking your
it's a
credentials.
buffer
They're
overrun.
attacking your socket. They're attacking your socket. And I'm saying buffer overruns would happen on your device.
so
Yeah.
I don't know, Chris, whether you've been in in another room where this was a few months ago. Someone literally was on stage and cussing and playing loud music,
Yeah, the
but nobody could see him.
MedTech 24/7 was up for 57 days. That gave people unfettered access to the key once they got on stage.
No. I'm saying that you cannot see the person on the stage, but you can hear his
No,
voice.
they got access to the master key. There's a master key that runs all of Clubhouse.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Tyler, are you there? You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, we need to do a separate.
Have you been speaking to yourself?
Yeah, on cybersecurity that Johan has said he would do, and I got to bring in Franz.
Oh no,
Organize with
Tyler.
him.
I'm in with
I'll
that
arrange
crew.
with him.
We have like 5 rooms a week on this stuff. So I
Yep.
actually have one tomorrow, AI and
Okay.
cyber, and we can do Clubhouse and cyber. But happy to tell people I'll bunch of names, security mindset. There's a bunch of these rooms.
Okay.
So yeah, it's big though. People should understand this is just one use of it. We do a lot of corporate cyber and cyber at home. So individual cyber for kids, digital hygiene. A lot of this stuff going on right now. And happy to Cheryl. I think Alexandra and Cheryl brought this up.
Okay.
To bring it back to using Clubhouse.
So next headline here is that TikTok says it now has 1 billion monthly active users, and a key milestone, the social video app claims it counts 1 billion monthly active. TikTok is the successor to Musical.ly, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and the next one's from CNBC that Coinbase says it will let U.S. users directly deposit any percentage of their paychecks into their Coinbase account in U.S. dollars or cryptocurrencies. That's kind of cool. And the next one's from The Verge, where it says, in an interview, the Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, describes Microsoft's failed TikTok deal as the strangest thing he has ever worked on, and says TikTok came to Microsoft. That's an interesting revelation. And I can tell by the photo of this interview that it took place just in the last few hours at the Code Conference, which is now run by Kara Swisher. It's an annual conference. It's about 400 people. And it was born out of the All Things Digital Conference with Walt Mossberg, and from it used to be the Wall Street Journal All Things Digital Conference. All Things D, it was called. And Jason and I went to All Things D in 2007 to launch Mahalo, which it was the event where Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were on stage together for the very last time. And Steve knew he had cancer and was saying goodbye to everybody, especially Bill Gates, and wanted to honor Bill Gates as his kind of colleague on stage. And it was an amazing event, as All Things D were just these truly unbelievable events. And you can Google and watch that on YouTube. Anyway, All Things D, Wall Street Journal, they ended up selling All Things D to Vox, and they had to rebrand it, and they call it Recode. And so Recode is the new version of All Things D with Kara Swisher. And now they still do the conference, but now they call it the Code Conference. Or they used to call it Recode, and now they call it CodeCon. And it's always in the LA region. And I've gone many years myself, even after 2007 but it's only limited to about 400 people, and it's very exclusive. And, you kind of got to be somebody to be at the event. And it's all the top CEOs of all the top tech companies. And it's one of the best tech events on the planet each year. And anyway, that's the context of this event. And Microsoft CEO, as it says in the headline, and it says, speaking today at the Code Conference, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said the whole ordeal was the strangest thing I've ever worked on. In terms of the value of such a deal for Microsoft, Nadella said he was kind of intrigued by it before trying to move right along with a laugh, deadpanned after a pause. And then I guess the rest is history. Kara Swisher pressed him for the story, and Nadella, clearly still a little agog at the strangeness, walked through a few of the key steps. The important start is that TikTok came to us, Microsoft. We didn't come to TikTok, he says. The company was looking for a U.S. partner to help with these security things we seem to have been hearing about. Nadella thought TikTok might have been a good fit because it was social cloud-based service that heavily leveraged AI. All areas of focus for the company. It's an interesting product, he says. Nadella's contention is that Microsoft would have been an interesting partner for TikTok because of its established work with investments in social media, in particular what we're doing in content moderation and child safety. Those strengths, plus the key fact that it is a US-based cloud service provider with Azure, were seen to be key to assuaging the Trump administration. There was a period of time when I thought when I thought the U.S. government had a particular set of requirements, but it just disappeared. Nadella said President Trump, I think, had a particular point of view of what he was trying to get done and then just dropped off. TikTok ultimately let Microsoft know that it wouldn't be moving forward with the deal in September. Later in the year, days ahead of the deadline Trump set for a parent company, ByteDance, to sell to a U.S. assets, TikTok suggested the administration had forgotten about the ban altogether. President Biden ultimately revoked the order this year. At this point, it's all moot, right? Nadella says. He says he hasn't followed up on what's going on with TikTok and Oracle. Hint, it's been shelved indefinitely. Would he like to buy TikTok now if it came back to the table? No, Nadella said. At this point, I'm happy with what I have. So, interesting insight there. People didn't really realize that. Essentially, for those who don't recall, President Trump was forcing TikTok to sell itself to an American owner if it wanted to continue doing business in America. So it was sort of being forced to sell to an American company, and it was at the time reported that it looked like Oracle was trying to buy it. This was at the end of Trump's term, and it was kind of like the clock was running out, and TikTok knew it. TikTok's like, oh, you're forcing us to sell, but you've only got a few months left as president, so let's see how this plays out. And they could run out the clock and be like, oh, you want to buy us? You don't want to buy us? Oh, who else wants to buy us? They just ran out the clock, and Trump is no longer president, and oh, is Trump gone? But we're still here as a business doing business in America. Oh, well, I guess life goes on. So this is just a nice little interesting backstory that was being shared on stage at Recode, as does happen. And by the way, it used to be, because Recode started, like I said, around 2004. And in 2004, 5, 6, 7, that was pre-social media, pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook. And my God, was these kinds of stories happened all the time. People just revealing all of this interesting backstory to each other that we didn't know. And now in the age of social media, they're becoming much more rare. Yes, go ahead.
There was some consideration back then that Oracle doesn't have a B2C presence.
Right. It was, yeah,
and therefore,
great point.
And therefore, kind of adopting TikTok would not cause a not invented here issue.
Right.
Whereas all these other guys had their own agenda.
Right.
And it might, yeah.
It was the whole Oracle sale was very weird because Larry is known to be friends with Trump, and Larry Ellison, who's the boss of Oracle.
That too.
Yeah, and it seemed like Trump was going to get a kickback out of the deal, and that's why he wanted to force it to happen. And he was just trying to, squeeze a little, make a little. It's almost like an investment banker transaction, but forced because he's able to do that because he's president. It was weird. Anywho.
But also, the Oracle Cloud was kind of hungry for a marquee brand like this.
Yeah.
To show up their prowess.
Yeah.
And in fact, they did, because they're serving lots of videos.
Yeah. Next up.
So another.
Yes, Ben.
So Tyler.
Yeah.
Another backstory is that Nadella was saying that, oh, they came to us, we didn't go to them. Yeah. Meaning TikTok, ByteDance went to him. Actually, so the backstory is that the founder of TikTok actually was a college student and got his first job as an intern at Microsoft Research Institute in Beijing. And so evidently he had a pretty good experience there. He actually went to hire a few top executives for Microsoft after he started ByteDance. So the moral story of the story is that don't be try to be nice to the interns in your company because they might come back and hire or merge with you.
Yeah. Well, that's
Tyler. I tweeted. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say I tweeted last night because I was keeping up with the live flow of tweets and info from CodeCon. That there was Netflix CEO as well got up there, co-CEO Sarandos. And he said some interesting things, but one of the things which I tweeted to you, which you might have seen yourself, with the numbers, because Netflix obviously they don't release numbers and statistics ever.
Yeah.
And they've released two sets of slides while they were on stage. One of which the amount of accounts that are watching certain shows, the top 10 shows, and then the number of hours that are spent on the top 10 shows, and the top 10 films, which was really, really revealing. One of the other things that he mentioned as well was just talking about not really being interested in buying up any other kind of like products at the moment. And then talking about the games aspect of it, that they're betaing in Poland. That's the only place that they're doing it at the moment, and even then it's to a limited crowd. But it's something that they're definitely interested in and focusing on, like mobile gaming and integrating it with part of the subscription as well. So some interesting stuff.
Yeah. And there likely will be other headlines coming out of Recode, although they'll, because there's journalists in the audience, but it's generally they try and keep everything tight-lipped there. But
yeah, he was pressed on the Apple thing as well, because obviously the Netflix and the subscription thing, and they were trying to press him about, what are you going to add a subscription link for Netflix now? Mm-hmm. And his response was a very kind of like guarded, let's just see what happens, because this is going to have ramifications for everybody in the ecosystem. So he was extremely cagey on that.
Well, this is the real interesting bit of the Code Conference and Kara Swisher, because she's a bulldog of an interviewer. Like she has a history of pulling things out of people, and she's a bit relentless. And asking
By the way,
tough
Tyler,
questions.
in the same interview, Nadella said that he's for stricter or greater government regulation on cryptocurrency. And that's part of the story just read at conference.
Okay. The next story is from Reuters, that the U.S. to open a program to replace Huawei equipment in the U.S. On U.S. networks, like cell phone operators, telecommunications company. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, on Monday said it would open a $1.9 billion program to reimburse U.S. telecom carriers for removing network equipment made by Chinese companies deemed national security threats, like Huawei and ZTE. The program, which was finalized in July, will open October 29th for applications. Last year, the FCC designated Huawei and ZTE as national security threats to communication networks, a declaration that barred U.S. firms from tapping an $8.3 billion government fund to purchase equipment from the companies. The FCC in December adopted rules requiring carriers with ZTE or Huawei equipment to rip and replace that equipment. The issue is a big one for rural carriers that face high costs and difficulty finding workers to remove and replace equipment. Okay. The next one is, let me see if there's some interesting tweets in that one. Not yet, there isn't, because that's kind of a new article. Okay, so the next one is LinkedIn confirms it is testing a new paid ticketing events service and says 21 million people attended an event on LinkedIn in 2020. I guess it says simple as that. Amid the changing world of work and transition to a nearly all remote workforce, LinkedIn events has seen a surge in growth, with 21 million people attending an event on LinkedIn in 2020. We continue to learn from member and customer feedback and test new ways to improve the experience. As part of this, we are exploring options for payment in the events product based on feedback from event organizers. From what we understand, as part of a bigger overhaul, the company is looking to make around video and audio services, so they are likely going to anchor the events service, which will all be rolled out in the coming weeks and months. And what's an additional interesting bit about that, I'm wondering where these virtual events are being hosted. They announced that they're going to do their own version of Clubhouse. I recall they're going to copy Clubhouse like everyone else has done. I haven't really seen that yet. I don't really use LinkedIn though, but are there any LinkedIn users that have seen their version of Clubhouse? I remember seeing a screenshot of what they proposed, and it's a copy of Clubhouse, but I haven't seen it in action. I wonder if it's in action and if they're going to apply this virtual events to that format, like Twitter's doing with their ticketed spaces, they call it. This would assumedly be a similar thing. But where else would they be able to have ticketed events? What is their event platform? Where their version of Hopin, essentially. LinkedIn.
Maybe Lynda.com. Because they have like the courses platform, right? Like where you can learn, and it has like a video plugin and everything. So maybe they would use that to do live webinars.
Mm-hmm. But it says in this article, LinkedIn announced in June this year that it was an investor in Hopin. Hopin is kind of the biggest player in this virtual events game. and you can have paid events in Hopin. So if you're promoting it on LinkedIn, why not just promote the link? They go over to Hopin, they pay on Hopin. Why collect the fees on LinkedIn? The idea is that if you're paying on LinkedIn, then the event itself is on LinkedIn. And to do an event on LinkedIn, you need a few different things. You need a video live stream and a kind of desktop sharing thing and a PDF sharing thing and an audience room and all that. So I assumedly they're going to build out all of that and compete with LinkedIn, which they're an investor in. Anyway, makes sense because LinkedIn, I mean, Hopin was kind of a booming thing, although it's going to be very interesting to see now. I mean, we're really just now seeing countries opening back up. Like Norway just announced yesterday, they're going back to zero regulations of any kind whatsoever. Denmark just did the same, correct, Mahogany? A couple weeks ago.
Yes, it's completely open here.
Right? And Sweden, because their Nordic neighbors are doing the same, they don't want to be embarrassed, which is the worst thing that can happen to a Scandinavian, is to be embarrassed. So they're desperately looking to their left and their right and seeing their Nordic neighbors opening. And oh boy, does that make us look embarrassed. We have to open too. So they're going to open as well. And once Scandinavia is open, let's see how that influences the whole... everyone will be watching with a lot of interest to see what happens when you have a big part of the world going back to pre-COVID life and events. Will people be super eager to do in-person events? Will it's potentially they might be extra eager to join physical events. Mahogany?
There was an annual event
Tech Barbecue
a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Tech Barbecue,
Yep.
and it was completely unrestricted. All the pictures showed no social distancing.
Right.
It was crazy.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see if physical events are bigger or smaller than they were pre-COVID. That's a really interesting question.
Just adding to that, Tyler, because just as you said, since Norway opened up literally the other day, I think it was
yesterday,
Saturday, then yesterday actually, then including our friend Ariane, Stockholm City, nearly everyone I know dashed over that quickly, and I'm actually going myself tomorrow, day after tomorrow, because they quickly went from purely digital. They have a very large music conference and festival called Bylarm. Bylarm,
yes.
By means city in Norwegian, and they also have the fairly new Oslo Innovation Week, as you know, and now they've connected the two. So that was the smart thing of being prepared for people to be there physically, but already having it as a digital event. So now it's a really well-made hybrid event. Yeah. So I'm trying to ping in Ariane to report from Oslo Innovation to see how many people actually are there.
Yeah. We can talk about that in the Nordic Tech Room when we get there later today.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that one. The next one up is from Warner Music. Oh, no. I skipped one. From the New York Times. Activision Blizzard. This is kind of a big one, actually. And I think, Ken, you DM'd this one as well. New York Times. Activision Blizzard settles with the EEOC, which sued it earlier in the day over alleged sexual harassment and discrimination. And so Activision Blizzard will create a $18 million fund for victims. The video game publisher Activision Blizzard said Monday it will pay $18 million in a settlement with Federal Employment Agency, who sued them. And we covered that when it was announced. Jesus, when was that initial lawsuit? That was maybe 3 months ago, 2 months ago. Yeah, or about 2.5 months ago. And so now they've settled this suit by creating an $18 million settlement with the federal government agency that filed the civil rights complaint against the company, accusing it of sexual harassment and discrimination against female employees. In a news release, Activision said the money would compensate and make amends to eligible claimants, with remaining funds going to charities that advance women in the video game industry and promote awareness around harassment and gender equality issues, as well as to company diversity and inclusion efforts. In a 7-page document filed with the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission accused Activision of discrimination against pregnant employees, paying female employees less than their male counterparts because of their gender, and retaliating against employees who complained about their unfair treatment. Employees were subject to sexual harassment that was severe or pervasive to alter the conditions of employment, said the complaint, which sought a jury trial. The conduct was unwelcome and adversely affected the employees. The complaint said extensive discussions with Activision to address the agency's findings and come to an agreement has been unsuccessful. And here's a quote: "There's no place anywhere at our company for discrimination, harassment, or unequal treatment of any kind, and I'm grateful to the employees who bravely shared their experience." Activision's chief executive Bobby Kotick said in a news release, "I'm sorry to anyone that had to experience inappropriate contact." In a separate legal filing, Activision denied all allegations of wrongdoing and said it had agreed to the settlement to avoid the expense, distraction, and possible litigation associated with the dispute. So there it is. There's your settlement.
Well, by the way, it's only, as I pointed out in the thing, Tyler, it's only the federal settlement.
Yep.
The original complaint came from the state of California. That has not been settled, so they're going to have to settle with California, and then people can still bring their individual suits if they want. You know.
Next up, Warner Music signs a deal to use Twitch's new content reporting system and launch dedicated Twitch channels for its artists. That's actually very interesting. Terms with the National Music Publishers Association, NMPA. Twitch has a deal with Warner Music Group, which is one of the three big music licensing groups, rights holders. Basically, if you want to have all known popular music, you have to go to Universal and Sony and Warner, and as Spotify has done and these other streaming platforms. And so Twitch is a platform for streaming video game content traditionally, and these video game streamers have audiences who watch them play their video games. And the idea here is quite an interesting one, is what if you have DJs streaming music? It's kind of an alternative to radio. And this is starting to happen. This is becoming quite a common use case on streaming platforms like Reddit, where you have these DJs streaming and people listen to them as like a radio station. Twitch as well. You're getting a whole bunch of people DJing in real time, but they've not collected the rights to do that. And this could get very interesting. Twitch and Clubhouse, and especially Spotify's version of Clubhouse, because they do have the rights already. So, and Twitter's version of Clubhouse, which, not coincidentally, these record label groups, conglomerates, are telling Twitter, hey, you need to start paying for music rights, because I think they might be correct to assume that people in their, now that Twitter's getting into live streaming of things, and TikTok as well. TikTok already had this issue because they had got the rights, I assume, from Tencent in China, which is also a rights owner and whatnot. So,
I do use Twitch, and it's really annoying because every time you stream, it gets interrupted, and sometimes when they allow you to do your full set, when it's recorded on your account, when people go back on it, it mutes like half of the stream. It's really annoying. So it'd be nice to see them get the full rights.
Because you're
sadly, can I just add? Sorry, on the Warner story, that and to respond to you, DJ, that sadly at the moment, at least, it's not helping creators on the platform at all, because this will just be solely Warner use.
Right.
So you still will have that muting issue. And Emma Sweebless, people who are streaming, as all creators, again, it's always the creators that get effed. But
have you noticed DJs? We normally use the disclaimer, like, I don't own this right, and it doesn't work. People think it works, but it doesn't.
Right.
It's nonsense.
No.
Yeah, the labels don't give a shit about that.
Of course not.
Right, but
it's not paying them.
About creativity. Why? This is why we do what we do.
Right.
So I was going to ask, Tyler, I was going to ask, is there no fingerprinting technology like YouTube has solved this, where if someone uploads a track, then they can notify the copyright holder and it can be taken down? Why hasn't this caught up in the audio space in all these other platforms, so that there's, because that really transformed YouTube, right? That technology added onto the onto YouTube allowed the it make it easy to what do you call it, to assign the rights and attribute a play, right? And then you can earn from all that long tail of content that people are mixing and remixing. So why hasn't that been added to Clubhouse and Twitch and other platforms?
Because it's more difficult to do that in a live streaming context than in a pre-recorded context. In the pre-recording context, like YouTube, you can do the Shazam check. You can be like, hey, what is this? And when it's live, it becomes a little trickier to do that. But it can be done, technically can be done. China does it, so we know it can be done. So I imagine it will be done. And the next step, of course, is now that they've got WMG, Warner Music Group, they're going to have to go after Universal and Sony and get all of the rights of all of them so that DJs can do their thing and the rights holders will get their stuff. Ken?
Hey, Kelly, I have a question which you probably won't know the answer to, but I just thought about it, which is if you're saying that Green Room benefits from its ownership from Spotify, why wouldn't Twitch technically? I mean, it depends on contracts.
From Amazon,
why wouldn't Twitch from Amazon, because they have Amazon Music?
I think because they're listed as separate companies, I imagine.
Yeah.
And I think where this is really going, Tyler, we talked about this about 6 months ago, is I don't really think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think it's only streaming and only DJ. I think we're getting into digital identity and metaverse like Taylor Swift and who owns rights and who can reinforce rights, because you will get to AI being able to simulate anything and who's really the author and origin behind it. And if you're doing metaverse games, my neighbors works at Blizzard. I don't want to go there, but we've had that talk. And so I think that's the bigger picture, where these are just the incremental steps towards that.
Okay.
There is.
LS, I think.
May I just respond to that one? Because the company Session, which most know as Audley, is one of the amazing startups in that exactly what you're describing now. So anyone contributing anything anywhere is followed. Even if you just have an opinion when you're in the studio while it's recording, you should check them out. It's also Niklas Melinder, if you heard the beginning of when we were chatting about releasing new things all the time, again supported by Björn Ulvaeus and Max Martin. They've started this amazing company thinking of the future. So
my company's in the same space and it's similar, but we're more economics for businesses. But you're right. I'm only saying macro trends. This is where the future is, and that's all I'm saying. And they know this already.
Yep.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, LS. Identity is going to be the key to it, because once you get us all on Stripe, which some of us are, right, you don't need to do any fancy vocal detection. You have the stream. You just stamp the stream, right? You timestamp the stream. You know who's talking. You know when. You know what the slice is. You don't have tough conversations with Tyler about, hey, like, how many cents per minute is my, crappy word worth? And Tyler's like, you know what, Chris, you're an a-hole. I'm going to take money from you every time you talk. And so it eliminates those tough conversations. And I don't want to go down a weird rabbit hole, because this has always been about purity of ideas and thoughts. But if you really want to look at how they can break down an app like Clubhouse and monetize your advice, they can do it through engagement. They know who's listening at the time. They can see who's clacking mics. They can, they can use the camera to figure out who's looking, to see who's speaking. When you scroll, that's a behavior. You name it, they can figure it out. And like, this goes to what Tyler and I were talking about in the morning show in America, was that they're DJs that can now say, hey, look, Metallica was in this mix, but I only had 10 listeners listening at Metallica during that time. Why should I pay them for the 1 million listeners I got during my live broadcast when they got 10 minutes of engagement through the 10 listeners that listened for a minute? This is Chris, and I'm done speaking.
Okay. So the next one up is SoftBank's Vision Fund, which is one of the biggest tech investors on the planet, if not the biggest. Certainly was the biggest for a while when they did the first Vision Fund with the money from Saudi Arabia. But boy, I mean, yeah, they're easily still likely to be the biggest. The sole senior managing partner Deep Nishar, says he will leave by the end of the year, so in the next 3 months. And that's kind of interesting, actually. He's the only managing partner, and he's leaving. That's very notable. When a sole managing partner of any VC fund leaves, that creates an interesting situation for that fund. And this is no ordinary fund. This is the biggest fund. And it's particularly interesting because Charles, who joins us regularly, said shit's going to go down with SoftBank in the near future. So that makes this particularly interesting.
Yeah, get the X-Files music.
I got the
X-Files
music about
2 weeks
going.
ago.
Yeah.
He said,
So Charles might be right. Let's see. This is very unusual behavior. And Charles said to expect unusual behavior out of SoftBank here in the near future. And this is unusual behavior. So what's going on?
Charles definitely knows something that we don't.
Yes. I was just chatting with him before we got in this room. So let me ping him with this.
Ping him again.
I'm going to ping Mr. Johnson real quickly here. And
let's all ping him.
Can you?
That's the white Johnson, Tyler, because I'm LS Johnson. So let's be clear.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
This is LS.
You guys.
You know you're LS. You don't have to say you're LS, and we also know you're LS. So. Nobody knows that.
It's just a joke because he used to do it all the time.
This is LS.
We know your voice.
This is LS.
Yeah, we love the sound of an LS.
LS, I'm going to insist that you start every comment with Tyler. This is LS because I love the pointlessness of that. Yeah.
You know who humbled me? It was Kyle. Kyle's like, we was talking off like everyone knows your voice.
Yes.
And I'm like, why? It's distinct. You don't need to say. I mean,
yes.
He said if I was 1,000 people and you were in a conference room live, you could just hit the mic and I would hear you. So
it's a cool voice, LS.
You have the most distinct voice of anyone in Clubhouse. So.
Not just they sing, it's explosive.
This is LS. Hey Tyler, this is LS. This is the highway. And now listen. So anyway, so I want to click on this link and see.
Wes, I'm sorry, I mean it in love, bro.
Yeah, previously
and take it in love. Take it in love always.
Nishar, who's based in San Francisco Bay Area, announced his departure via a LinkedIn post on Monday. And previously a senior vice president, Deeps played an important role in hiring and mentoring employees, advising our founders, and overseeing our investment activities in enterprise, frontier tech, and health tech. I'd like to thank him for his many contributions over the past 6 years and wish him well on his next adventure. And then it doesn't say where he's going or why he's leaving. This is weird. We're telling you, this is odd. Something's going to happen. And Charles predicted that shit's going to go down with SoftBank in the near future. Very, very interesting. So let's see if Charles pops in here while we go through the rest of these. TechCrunch says a startup in India called Bijness, whose app helps factory owners in India build a digital presence and sell products to retailers, raises $30 million. It's kind of, I imagine that's kind of like the Alibaba of India in a way, because that's what Alibaba does in China, is it connects you to factory owners so you can buy things from those factories directly. And India should do the same. So that's a huge space. And then Cloudflare announces email routing and email security DNS wizard built on top of Gmail and others to prevent phishing, spoofing, and more. That's very cool.
Sorry, I think India already have a site like Alibaba that links the wholesaler to the retailer.
I imagine they must, yeah.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
NASDAQ sets Amplitude's reference price at $35 per share. Okay. Singapore-based neobank Aspire, which offers Southeast Asian small, medium businesses working capital and other financial services. That's interesting. So it's a neobank that does loans for businesses. Raises $158 million out of Singapore. Certainly becoming a fintech hub, especially as Hong Kong, or the global investment communities leaving China and Hong Kong, and Singapore is absolutely benefiting in scenarios like this. They're going to become a massive fintech hub for the whole region for sure. Syndio, which provides workplace analytics software, raises $50 million. Astera Labs, a fabless semiconductor startup, raises $50 million, led by Fidelity. NMPA drops its $200 million copyright lawsuit against Roblox and strikes a partnership with the company to let NMPA members reach individual music licensing deals. So this is another example of a platform, in this case Roblox, which is kind of a metaverse type space, and it's all about the music rights yet again, where they were suing for $200 million, and instead they're going to partner. Well, that's a very clever music industry approach, is we're suing you for copyright. And by the way, this, for those who've been around tech for more than a minute, this whole scenario happened in the YouTube era, when Veo was a YouTube competitor run by a friend of mine, Dimitri Shapiro. He was the founder of Veo, and before he went over to Google Plus to run Google Plus. And when Veo kind of had a head start and kind of was ahead of YouTube back in 2006, and then the music industry came and wanted to sue him for billions of dollars and sued him out of existence, because back then that's what they wanted to do.
Oh, Tyler.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Is this Veo or Vimeo?
No,
Because I'm
Veo.
thinking Vimeo.
VEOH. Veo. It was a YouTube like thing back when there was a battle between those platforms, which YouTube ended up winning because they sold to Google. Google cleverly made a deal with the music industry saying, hey, instead of suing us, partner with us. We will pay you the money of all of the streams that you're entitled to, from the advertising money. We're going to put ads on these videos. Rather than the person who uploaded your content, rather than paying them, we'll pay you. So now you've got more distribution, and you have a new way to monetize. Sound good? I thought you'd like that. You're welcome. And so that's why YouTube was able to survive in some sense. And Veo didn't do that deal. They just wanted to shut Veo down. These record labels didn't see what Google saw. They saw enemies. You're streaming our content. You pay us billions of dollars. We're suing you, or you die. Very American approach to things. Very un-Swedish, by the way. And because there's money to be made. You're getting distribution. We're running ads. Let's give you the ad money that's on your videos. Forget the person who uploaded it. It's not their content. They don't really care to make money from it. And it's what Google did with YouTube is very, very clever. And now we're seeing the aftermath of that in headlines like this, that Roblox and the metaverses and Twitch, which are kind of the modern versions of this distribution of music, they need to partner with these music rights holders. And rather than suing them out of existence, as the music industry was doing in the case of Roblox, where they had this $200 million copyright lawsuit, they're very clever, though, now. They did that lawsuit knowing that's going to give them a leverage in the negotiation for this quote-unquote partnership with Roblox. I imagine they might have got part equity in Roblox because the music industry learned how to benefit from the Spotify era and got equity in Spotify as part of that deal. So if I was a journalist, I would go in and try and figure out what is this deal with Roblox and the music industry for the music licensings. I imagine they got equity in Roblox because them dudes ain't stupid. So the next,
and Tyler, just a quick one for you in the context of looking back, remember back to the .com crash, it was kind of, this feeling of no one saw it coming, and stock market's all-time high, IPOs, everyone's getting money. Do you have a view on how you see it structurally now? Do you think that we've got a different structural setup to prevent that? I'm not trying to scaremonger. I'm just trying to. You mentioned way back in Google early days, but do you have a view on that now? What's your read on the kind of more structural thing around tech market boom and bust?
Can you rephrase the question again?
Do you think that the current trajectory of investing, stock markets, tech rise is sound to just continue in the upward trajectory, or do you have some nervousness around the more like structural things around it?
I think tech in general, innovation's going to happen in brain computer interfaces and quantum computing, and all of these things are going to continue to happen. And the question is, who's doing it? Is it going to be big tech, or is it going to be small tech? Who's doing all of that innovation? And will the government want big tech to be doing that innovation or small tech to be doing that innovation? In the case of Europe, Europe wants small tech to be doing that innovation because they want their own Google and Facebook and Apple, and they don't have it yet. And this is their chance to get it, because you could get a big quantum computing company, a big AI company, a big there's some med tech company or insurance tech companies and whatnot. And Europe's hungry to get its own, like India now is starting to get. And America actually might want to do kind of what China's done. China has basically nationalized the big tech of China and using it to achieve its means of data collection and distribute its central bank digital currency, which they're going to announce that in the next few weeks here, that Alipay and WeChat Pay are now using the central bank digital currency. You're welcome, everybody. And thank you for playing along, tech companies. So America might do the same. America might be like, let's use Google and Facebook and Amazon, and we get access to everything, and here's what we want you to do. And, hand over everything and start mandating how they behave. Because they're these huge, powerful assets that if the government perceives the greedy opportunity, like China kind of has done and understands the power of data, let them do it. It's powerful data that they have, but we want access to that data as the government. We want to benefit from your power of size and scale and data collection. Why destroy them? They're very powerful. That's a very useful asset. And force them to kowtow and kiss the ring of the government, and great. Now, you're empowering our government in the way that the CCP is doing with their big tech companies. I can see why beat them down. Why, you know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting. It's unclear yet how that relationship with America's crackdown on big tech. China's done its big crackdown on big tech. That's basically done. That's been finished. It took them about 3 weeks. And it's amazing to see how fast that happened. And the outcome of that is, we've nationalized big tech. It belongs to the state now. And the U.S. can't do it that way. It's going to be long and slow and litigious, but eventually, and it's going to be far less obvious how it shakes out. But I imagine how it's going to shake out is we're still going to have the big tech companies, but the government's going to, and the government agencies, most notably the FBI and the intelligence agencies and the IRS and the tax collection agencies, going to know all of your transactions. And the government agencies are going to get up inside of tech, and big tech's going to become a kind of what's the word I'm looking? Not a zombie, but like an empowerer, an enabler of government agencies.
Tyler, if I can just add real quickly to your point, I just see a little bit of difference on Dave's point too. I think, and I'm going to say this Eastern thing, yin yang, a bottom-up approach on trends, because I think we're resetting back to where Microsoft, we all know the story of Bill Gates going into IBM and getting that licensing deal, and IBM just becoming history and like Kodak and everything else. There's a little bit of both, where there will be some small companies, Dave, globally, and from the bottom up, that will emerge to be the next 20, 30 years using AI, metaverse, everything else. And these digital rights that we understand more because we're building it versus these legacy companies that just have money and power that'll catch on. But to Tyler's point, the legacy companies are just going to keep, serving their usage until their usage becomes obsolete. And then we just do the same thing in about another 100 years. But that's what I see coming forward, is a little balance of both, because you're right. poor countries like Africa, which you know I'm very close to, Tyler, and all around the world, they're not just going to sit by. This tech genie's out of the bottle, and they'll figure it out quickly, but they're not going to let it get out of the control. And so, you're just going to see more emergence like India, Asia, everywhere else, and it's going to be an asymmetric level playing field. But it'll be may the best innovators and minds win, not corruption. And that's what I see.
Okay, so a related headline is Google begins its appeal of the EU's $5 billion fine, which we covered that headline weeks ago when it was announced that Google has this $5 billion fine, which was about GDPR. And I remember that Ireland, where Google's based in Dublin, like all the big tech companies are, the American big tech companies are all based in Ireland, in Dublin. And Dublin only wanted to do a much smaller fine, and the EU is like, no, 5 billion, please. we got a whole lot of mouths to feed over here. Let's do 5 billion on that Google company. And now Google obviously is appealing it and this is that big, legal, slow, litigious approach of the West that I was just referencing of how the governments are going to crack down on big tech. A verdict isn't expected for months and can be appealed to the EU's top court. That's going to drag on for years. This is where China, in a weird way, has a real asymmetrical advantage in their ability to, get their shit in order, lickety split. And what takes them days takes us years.
Yeah. The 3 weeks is incredible, Tyler, just in the context of that one case that you outlined. Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Tyler,
yes.
Can you check the hand raise?
Okay.
Thank you.
I see Lady Millard.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. So
Tyler,
yes.
Speaking of legal, on the U.S. side on big tech, the new FTC chairperson, actually was going to be another sort of shoe dropping, but she came to power really unnoticed by the Biden was because of her theory of breaking really big tech, particularly with respect to Amazon.
Yeah.
So that is something sort of the others should be dropped. I haven't seen any sort of drastic action coming from FTC in terms of breaking up Amazon or dealing with this Facebook lawsuit that the federal judge just rejected a couple of months ago. But I think that's something that could indicate whether the U.S. was ready to take quick action regarding the type of decisions they're going to make on the big tech.
Okay.
Well, I think she's giving Amazon some problems with the MGM acquisition, even though that one, which I'm very familiar with, I don't think there's any antitrust issue whatsoever because MGM as a movie studio is so small relative to the others, and even Amazon as a streamer is not close to Netflix. But the Amazon's concerned about her involvement on the looking at the MGM thing. I think they've actually asked her to recuse herself because of her prior bias.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that's really striking about her is that she basically proposed a very new, quote unquote, theory on antitrust cause of actions. Very different from the past 30, 40 years that the government has pursued companies like IBM or Microsoft. She was really, I'm not going to go into the details of a theory, but she wrote an article as a law student, very bit of a revolutionary type of theory, almost like academic discussion, proposing, hey, antitrust authorities in the US should go after companies not just on the old theory, such as benefit of the consumers. Okay, we're going to look at other things, and this other thing could include, we don't care whether it benefits the consumer or not, the Walmarts or the Amazons. We're going to look at another aspect. If you're too big, well, I mean, this is not fair characterization of our theory, but it's almost like if you're too big, we need to break you up into very little different companies. And that theory, if that's put into practice, then it'll be really a lot more drastic than this incremental changes.
The problem is her theory doesn't get to be law. So we have decades of settled antitrust laws that the courts have ruled on. There's major precedents, and nobody made her queen to be a dictator on how to change that by herself. You need Congress to change that.
Okay, moving on. So the next one up is the London police sign a $4 million deal for a 4-year deal, so $1 million a year, with Japan's NEC for their facial recognition system, which uses historical data to find subjects. So the next one is
On that last one, Tyler, does it not seem very cheap? Like
$1 million. If it's just London, $1 million a year for just London. No, I don't think that's cheap.
But it's just the license to run the software on the cameras, then, is it? Or
right.
Maybe I'm not reading it right.
Yeah, no,
okay.
It is. It's a facial rec system for them, and they can feed all their cameras into it. And now all of those cameras covering London. It's one of the most camera-covered geographies on the planet is London.
It is. That's an enormous amount of data to pass. That's not a bad price, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't.
Charles, that was my thought.
Yeah.
All right, because if we're gonna have like the,
it's going to get a whole lot harder to commit a crime in London. That's for sure. Dave, your mic dropped out.
We have the second biggest concentration of CCTV in the planet.
Yeah.
Second only to China.
Yeah.
Just because I was paying attention, this was the brand that Charles said had the biggest bias in that report that I can't remember who brought up. So NEC was the company that Charles cited as having the technology. Leave that as it is. I'm just going to say that whatever Charles would say.
So hold on. In Charles's defense, sorry to interrupt, NEC is picking up a lot of mobile contracts as the system integrator at the moment, especially as the UK is moving rapidly to open RAN networks, so virtual radio access networks.
Yeah, I think Charles is just saying that NEC use mostly Japanese data to do the machine learning. So that's all he said, yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, that is precise.
That was correct. That's what he said.
Okay, so that covers the popular headlines at the moment. And now we get into the fun stuff, which is all the tweets everyone's sending in. Like this one, for example, from Kinsha, sends this one in from NASDAQ, which is not a normal source for news, but nonetheless, they wrote an article saying that the new Twitter integration with Bitcoin will drive the Bitcoin price above 300,000. So why is NASDAQ reporting that? By integrating direct Bitcoin payments, Twitter is paving a way for Bitcoin price to surpass 300,000, which is it still in the 40s, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be like 10x more, Tyler.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, I don't
Who's
know.
The writer? Who's the writer, Tyler, from NASDAQ?
Peter Chawaga.
And he's stating that NASDAQ is saying this based on the integration of Lightning?
No. He's a writer for NASDAQ. NASDAQ has a blog, and it's like their own tech blog, and he's the writer.
Yeah.
I
think he's a little...
He also writes...
a bit sensationalizing that.
I agree. Absolutely, he is. Yeah. He's clearly a fan of Bitcoin and trying to pump, but
I was going to say, Reddit is full with Mountain Dew chugging moon boys who haven't slept for 15 days straight, and even they are only...
And even then, they wouldn't say 300,000.
It's like 100K. 100K is the moon boy shot at the moment. Like,
yeah, exactly.
300K, that's insane.
Hold on, isn't also Jack Dorsey a big holder of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies?
No, I'd have to.
Twitter.
If someone could find me, I could do some research and see if I could find his wallet. But at the end of the day, I think I'm kind of with Tyler on this one. I'm like, what's he trying to do? But it's very interesting that it's someone from NASDAQ, right, Tyler?
Yeah.
Because in some ways, it's like, I think the hegemon of the original guys that have done like this sort of crazy like shorting of the markets that have never been transparent to the rest of the world, I think they're now trying to make a play for it as well.
In 6 months, he'll end up the investment director at Twitter.
So
what was
his
exactly?
I have his argument here. This guy says, as users begin exchanging value with minimal fees nearly instantaneously across borders without censorship through the Lightning Network on Twitter, how long will it be until people realize that Bitcoin is the best monetary network for the internet. How long will it be until other digital platforms integrate this money directly into their tools, as Twitter has begun to? How long will it be until Bitcoin replaces the outdated systems that currently dominate remittances, influencer marketing, and eventually digital payments as a whole? So that's his argument.
Tyler, but it's very interesting because this person is speaking about remittances under the context of NASDAQ. And
No, has nothing to do with the context of NASDAQ. It just coincidentally happens to be on their blog.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But doesn't NASDAQ have a certain strategy or understanding of their writers on what they write about? Because NASDAQ is the stock exchange. It is what's in Wall Street, right? Remittances are more payments. They are more to do with payment.
I think you're gonna. I think you should remove the NASDAQ context from this completely.
Okay, got it. So then, if I remove the NASDAQ context, I still go back to the fact that we haven't seen what the Lightning could do in terms of the number of remittances that could hit it, and I do not see that in my observation, just knowing and seeing the space for the past 4 years plus. If I look at the charts, I still believe that Jack has some work ahead to get that Lightning Network accepted and used by a lot of people, right? The challenge there is it's a bit like playing a video game. If you're going to play a video game and Jack Dorsey's defending his Lightning Network, do you think he's just going to easily be able to walk through this field without anything coming in his way? I think it's a bit premature to say that it would reach that much because of the traction of Lightning. What I would say is a sleeping giant that many are not really seeing, in my humble opinion, is the fact that one of the largest markets that hasn't stepped foot in this space is a derivatives market, and that market needs to have security and scalability. And that security and scalability is the challenge that the Bitcoin network has in terms of time-wise. However, it has the security and it's decentralized, and that's the blockchain trilemma: decentralization, scalability, and security. And Bitcoin hits security. It doesn't hit scalability because of the fact that it's too long for transactions, but it does hit two of the three. Now, when you look at Ethereum, it hits a couple in there, but yeah, again, it hits the scalability, it hits the security, but the decentralization is a questionable piece for many of the maxis in the Bitcoin space. With what he's saying right here, he's implying, in my observation and listening to what you just said, he's implying that Lightning Network would be accepted that easily. And he's also naively thinking that Lightning Network will heavily impact those that are collecting Bitcoin. And that's what I think is very, very interesting, because those are two separate sets of people, in my humble opinion, because those that are going to be using the Lightning Network are transactions, maybe super fans and super followers and only fans. But when you look at who's holding Bitcoin, that's a wealth builder. That's an asset class. When you start seeing that, people are really using Bitcoin as a vehicle for wealth and generational wealth building. So I think that's why I would sit to the side of the maxis, as Carl said inside the Reddit, that it's just going to be 100 to 110.
Okay, MA and Tyler, sorry, because I just got to comment slightly. And I know you hate this to be a Bitcoin.
Who is this talking, by the way?
Stop. MA.
Trader Joe's.
Yeah. So all I'm saying, being in this space, MA, and I agree with you 100%, and I've said this before, though, I think what's coming is a dichotomy. And I'm talking about a centralized tokenization of cryptocurrency that's accepted for transactions, that's on a side chain, that's not a blockchain. And we don't want to take this room that way, but I think that's what Jack is talking about. I don't think he's naive. I don't think he's stupid. I'm not even talking about the NASDAQ blogger. I'm talking about Jack Dorsey of Twitter. And I think that's what they're going to do. And you're always going to have, Bitcoin, the currency. I've always said this. We've always said. I've been in this space for 2010, wrote books about it, yet I own no currency, never have, because I've always was focused on the technology. I think the technology is bigger than the currency, but I don't disagree with the currency. I think it's a great way for people to build assets if you come from nothing, because I did still, and you want to create some wealth, but it can't scale. And so what you'll see is something that can work in space. That's all I will say on this point regarding that. But, I don't want to be like Charles Johnson, but
No,
watch what happens in the
totally
future.
agree with you,
Watch what
LS.
happens in the next 8 months. And China, it shocked me that China moved so fast on Thursday and Friday. That shocked
China
me.
speed.
Oh, still, yeah.
Okay, next one. In the audience, Almanot sends in this one from Bloomberg. Finland reports widespread espionage around politics and high tech. And that raises the question, Tech News Jeopardy, who's spying on Finland? According to Bloomberg, it names 2 countries. This might be the most difficult Tech News Jeopardy in the history of Tech News Jeopardy.
China,
Russia.
You have to get both to win.
and
Kazakhstan. US.
Wait, what's the question again? What's the question?
Which 2 countries are spying on Finland, according to Finland, in high tech and politics?
China and
Just supplementation.
Russia,
China,
China,
Russia.
Well done. Everybody wins. Everybody won.
What were the 2?
Russia and China among the spying.
Got it at the beginning.
Pat yourselves on the back,
hear
everybody.
Shaheen?
You just won the most.
Does that
Did
mean
you hear
we all get to
Did you hear Shaheen? He's all, come on, Russia. Come on, Russia. Like it was a horse.
We all need to catch up to Messi, Ty.
We need a winner. It can't be Messi.
Everybody won a point.
Wins except for Messi today.
Finland is a target of broad range and unlawful intelligence gathering and operations intended to sway public opinion. Now that's the interesting bit, is what type of espionage is happening here. But Finland says it is a target of broad, unlawful intelligence gathering and operations intended to sway public opinion, the Finnish Security and Intelligence Services said. The activity originates from Russia and China in particular and is intended to secure, quote unquote, insights into the preparation of major policy positions and details of state-of-the-art technology, the organization said in an update on Monday. Among cyber threats, state-sponsored espionage remains a concern, and ransomware attacks may endanger national security, according to the report. It also cited particularly high risk to Finnish information infrastructure from potential legitimate investments by authoritarian states. The threat of terrorism is expected to remain elevated in Finland over the next 2 years, corresponding to level 2 on a 4-point scale. Individuals and small groups harboring far-right or radical Islamist ideologies pose the main terror threat, with among 390 people designated as counterterrorism targets. Okay. So next one up is from Evan. Found this one from the Register, that the Quad met recently, which is India, Australia, Japan, and America. And the Quad group seeks to set security standards for global 5G and tech industries. So US, India, Australia, Japan pledge to build their own 5G tech and share space data, secure rare earth supply chains, and more. So the 4 nations leaders met last week and announced a set of initiatives, among them developing a shared Quad principles on technology design, development, governance, and use. A joint statement outlines the aims. Here it is. Here's the joint statement. We expect technology suppliers, vendors, and distributors to produce and maintain secure systems and to be trustworthy, transparent, and accountable in their practices. Technology developers should also build in safety and security by design approaches so that robust safety and security practices are part of the technology development process. The joint statement also spells out Quad leaders' desires that the principles will guide not only the region but the world towards responsible, open, high-standard innovation. The Quad was formed in 2004, formalized in 2007, ignored for a decade, then revived in 2017. The 4 member nations have since increased collaboration, culminating on last week's summit. The language used regarding the information security standards for the world represents a new level of global ambition for the group. The bloc also pledged to launch a Quad senior cyber group that will see leader-level experts meet regularly to advance work between government and industry on driving continuous improvements in areas including adoption and implementation of shared cyber standards, development of secure software, building workforce and talent, and promoting the scalability and cybersecurity of secure and trustworthy digital infrastructure. It's one other statement here. It says another four-way effort will see the Quad jointly facilitate enabling environments for 5G diversification, including with efforts related to testing and testing facilities, essentially a plan to ensure that all can enjoy 5G that's not built in China, it says. Right. So the whole thing is a big decoupling of China by Japan. And by the way, this is not a coincidence, is it? That these four countries are perhaps the four most strongly opposed to China. India and Japan, let's be honest, hate China. I mean, they are just very transparent about this fact. Australia very recently is taking a very strong posture against China, and America is leading the whole global decoupling of China. So this whole partnership, I think China would agree,
Tyler, on the 5G side, this is a resetting of the technology.
Yes.
So Huawei and ZTE own something like 25% of the 5G licenses and patents. And in regards to 6G, it's closer to 50%. So obviously the Western powers are desperate to reset the technology, move it to Open RAN, and support obviously their own vendors, their own domestic vendors. Where India is very strong, the US is very strong, UK not so strong.
So it says, it's, by the way, China has made an official announcement against this Quad as a result of these headline that I just read. China has dismissed the Quad as a flimsy arrangement, but also expressed its displeasure that the foreign member nations are attempting to contain its growth.
Also, the Huawei CTO recently said that Open RAN was a joke. So I don't think China's going to win this one. Well, they won't win it.
It says, but the Quad members left the world in no doubt what they're up to. As the joint statement read, we stand for the rule of law, freedom and of navigation and overflight, peaceful resolution of disputes, democratic values, and territorial integrity of states. That's all aimed squarely at China and its insistence that Taiwan is a rogue province that will be reunified rather than a sovereign nation. So this is just, America is very focused on getting the rest of the world to decouple from China and build alliances to remove its dependencies on China for technology and all of these things. And China is very upset about it, as it is right to be. So the next one is from Evan. I love this one. Google halts drone deliveries. And why is Google... Oh, shoot. Shit. Oh, shit. Okay. Why is Google halting drone deliveries?
What's the question again? Because you interrupted yourself.
Google halts drone deliveries because of why? Why are they stopping their...
Privacy.
Security?
Privacy.
Chip shortage. They're running into no more chips.
Messy?
They got their data stolen by the
cyber security, I would say.
Supply chain issues?
Nobody wins. Bird attacks.
What does Google ship?
I said birds, Tyler. I said they're running into birds. Right,
Okay, Lakeisha wins the point.
Mess around with the birdies.
Yes. Google halts drone deliveries following repeated attacks by birds. Nesting season sees territorial ravens, hawks, and eagles lay siege on the delivery drones.
Now
Surely,
we know
Tyler,
the
headline should say Google suffers black swan event.
Anti-drone technology. Very good. Natural anti-drone.
So this is actually a huge opportunity for somebody who can do drones that birds are not interested in, because now Amazon has shut down their drone delivery. Google's shutting down theirs for a very peculiar reason. There's a huge opportunity here. When Amazon and Google are both pursuing something, you know it's a huge opportunity. Amazon politically fell apart on their drone team in the UK. They say they're still pursuing it, but they were just very poorly mismanaged. It's been widely reported that their UK drone delivery efforts were just wildly mismanaged. Google, as a result of that headline, says we're hiring. So if you're leaving the Amazon team, come join the Google Wing team, which is their drone delivery. And now Google's drones deliveries, but let's see, because they're operating in multiple cities, and maybe it's not every city where they are pausing their drone deliveries. And that will be relevant, because if Google does decide to stop doing drone delivery, there's a huge opportunity for a small tech company to go into this. Wing, a drone delivery service operated by Google's parent company Alphabet, had to halt deliveries in Canberra, Australia, after its devices were repeatedly attacked by ravens. The service had been up and running since 2019 and carried myriad items, including food, telemedicine, prescriptions, and whatever else the user wanted to order. According to the Canberra Times, Wing announced it was stopping all deliveries after numerous instances of ravens striking its drones. Unfortunately, this pause comes at an inopportune time, as demand for drone deliveries has increased due to the country's prolonged lockdown. See, this is a huge opportunity. You just got to figure out a way to outsmart.
Deploy Chase.
Why can't they just
and
attach?
make it birdseed?
Lasers. Why not lasers?
So, well,
don't hurt them. Make it birdseed.
Well, Chris, you're right,
Put
and
a
I don't.
on it.
Well, no, you can actually put sensors with sound waves.
That
will scare any. Yeah, that would scare any animal off, and I don't accept. I'm sorry,
or
I'm
smell.
just too techie tonight or geeky. Right? Well, no, sound, because sound will. They can all. That's how most of them sense.
But that takes energy.
So,
you could put a really repulsive smell on it.
And okay, but then the customer.
No. It wouldn't affect the customer, because the way this one works is it flies over their house, like 100 meters above their house, drops the product down on a tether.
I think ravens are afraid of shiny objects, like anything that's shiny and moving. That's why a lot of people live there.
Yeah, my father-in-law was hanging CDs on his longyan tree.
Exactly.
And LS, you live in Orange County. You'll hear a ruckus outside, and it's a hawk being attacked by a couple ravens. Those things are like insanely hardcore, man.
Yeah.
Well, they're gangster, and it's not a hawk. It's about 30 ravens being attacking a hawk. But you're right. But I know ravens well. I mean, I watch them enough. They're more sensitive to certain. Extremely smart. That's why you have to outsmart them. They're almost like people in the hood, you know? So you have to figure I'm sorry. But let me not go there like Lakeisha, but you have to figure out how you're going to stop them. I mean, Australia, these people were not forward-thinking engineers. I'm talking about the ones who have the contracts. Or there's something else going on with it.
I suggest instead of software programmers, Google should hire more biologists, help them with the drone delivery.
Yes, Ben.
But I remember watching a documentary years and years and years ago about ravens, and I just remember how they learned how to take the fish off of ice fishermen hooks. So, the ice fishermen in Minnesota and parts of Norway, the Nordics, they would drill a hole in the ice and then put their rods in there, and then the ravens learned how to pull up the line, take the fish off, drop the line back in, and the fisherman had not a clue. So I love, Chris, that your father-in-law, had some sort of CD deflection, but I think they're smarter than that.
It ain't doing. No, they're too.
I get in my balcony. I've been feeding some of these black crows for the past couple of years, and they keep visiting every day, even this morning, and I've been observing them, and they are incredibly smart. I start getting gifts now from them, little lighters, stolen from different places. So,
well, that's why they're in
all.
all.
I've got a collection of tiny little lighters everywhere now. So, but there are.
There are many crows in Japan, and they are very smart. They are very selective in what they target to eat. We went camping once. We forgot to watch over our food, and then
Tokyo has tons of them in the morning near the trash. They're super smart.
Yeah, and also in Japan, crows are kind of like protected because, well, long time ago, they used to save the emperor's life. So in Japan Constitution, they are protected. So you cannot attack crow. Yeah,
but by the way, they also memorize people's faces. There's really interesting studies.
Yes, exactly.
Well, no, check this out.
They actually know you.
The students, I believe it was at Yale, did a study on the ravens. That's right. And then they went away for the summer. They came back 3 months later, and the ravens remembered the students out of thousands, obviously, who were
so crazy.
Yeah, so
they They remember who's done them wrong. They remember who's been good to them and who feeds them, and they'll warn each other. If you've got, if you have someone that actually, tried to harm them or something, they'll warn each other. And you'll see sometimes them, just getting really loud around someone or circling them, and that's because they're just constantly warning each other and who's good, who's not good, and they remember faces. And even, you were just saying, Tyler, they did a study where they would actually, put on different kind of hats or outfits, or, but they would recognize out of, hundreds of people, they would recognize the person that was good to them or bad to them, and keep warning the other ones about them.
So the article says, hold on, it says,
just to add one, go ahead.
It says Ben Roberts, a local resident who gets his coffee every morning from the Google drones, filmed the latest Raven attack on a video and uploaded it. And he's quoted as saying, "It's a matter of time before they bring one down. They think it's the Terminator or something." Which is
and that's what I was going to say. It's just pigeons, because this is tech. Well, this is tech news around the world. So Nikola Tesla was famous for his pigeons, which are loyal and they will go distances. But ravens, if you just study birds, like a lot of people say, environmentalists, Lakeisha, if you just study your environment, they are very high intellect, and whatever you're doing, you must outsmart them to the next level. So you cannot settle and think that they won't figure out a way to get around what you've done. And so I think that's the key.
Give them food. Like I keep saying it, but like, okay, if they found a bug on Mars, right? That would be the biggest scientific discovery of our time. We kill things all the time, and that's fine. I accept that. It's part of being human, part of the chain. But just drop some bird seed or something, and that'll distract them. Deploy chaff. Go up and drop some chaff, and they'll go chase it. And I'm not saying they're not hardcore, but don't try to kill them.
I think we need reflective paint that it is very spark. Oh, what is that bit that sparkly glitter? You need to cover the drone with highly reflective glitter and a really obscene smell. And somebody else had an idea.
I think just put some mirrors there, right?
Yeah, but glitter is like miniature mirrors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's there?
But then pilots would get blind.
Because Tyler, I think you're right on. If we look into biomimicry, and I think Ben, mentioned earlier how they need to hire more biologists. But yeah, if we look into biomimicry and look into the ecosystem and say, okay, who are their natural predators? And then now let's redesign the drones to mimic.
Nobody.
Yeah, but never put any stinky chemicals, because remember the chemical will kill us through our food too. So if the drone is used to deliver our food,
you just
don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, you
put
could
mirrors, okay?
You could put pepper spray on the thing. Spray it with pepper spray.
Put a durian on top of the drone.
I think they'll come eat the thing if it's a durian. So I think pepper spray would upset the drone. You just spray the thing with pepper spray and the bear repellent. You know what I mean? So
actually,
not even the rivers like spicy food.
Here we go. I was hoping you
to capsaicin.
Okay, so then I think there's a huge opportunity here. It's
yes.
They can paint them
maybe that's exactly what Chris Fonon is working on, because remember you saw his profile picture. He was up to something.
Well, if
something that looks like a drone.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a way, Tyler, where you don't disturb the environment and natural habitat, but you deflect them, and I agree with you, Tyler. I just don't know why Google guys couldn't figure this out, and I hope I'm never sleeping that much with my company, but it's like you have this big market in Australia. You've been around since 2019. You're launched, you're live, and you don't inhabit this. I mean, you guys are, come on. You can't figure out that you're going to have a bird problem?
Well, can I share an article?
It's actually just seasonal because it's this weird nesting mating period, and so the crows get very agitated during when they have eggs.
Yeah, but how many
Chris F right now? Chris F would have had 5 different solutions.
Fun fact: bird strikes are such a big deal for airplanes that how they test all turbines is they shoot a 15-pound frozen turkey through the engine.
Thank you, Chris. They do. Thank you. Exactly.
In Ethiopia, when I was a baby, actually they used to bring down planes. A couple of planes crashed. That was like long time ago. But now I think with the bigger airports, they have figured it out. I don't know how they did it, but I remember 2 planes went down because of bird.
Well, now
It's not
it's
so.
usually
It's not.
the bird it's now it's sadly usually the birds that go down. I just wanted to add like a very basic thing that how come one just cannot understand that they haven't figured this out, because I'm like here in the country we're just anyone who has huge windows or anything, and on lots of places you just have shadows of other birds on the pane and they just divert directly. It just feels so obvious, but obviously it must be more complex than that. Just how come it works here but not up there?
Okay, next up, Johan.
Tyler, can I share an article?
Yeah.
Let Johan been waiting, and then you can go, Cheryl.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is here that this with bird strikes, you actually have a very, very good example what bird strikes can do to your airplane. You have the Miracle on the Hudson, where it's actually a plane in New York hit 2 birds and went down in the middle of New York. You want done.
Mm-hmm. Cheryl.
Okay, thank you. I just want to share this article to lead up to my so-called comment later. So Leah 27 partners with pioneering computer vision company. So I'm not sure whether you know Leah. Leah basically is John Francois' company. It's a digital celebrity who actually allows people to call her to talk on the phone for free. So this partnership will allow the Leah to be able to, fully autonomous Leah to take the next major step towards creating real-time audio and video interactions with humans. So as a result of this partnership, the flagship technology Leah is a digital person created by artificial intelligence that is constantly learning and evolving with every user interaction, is now producing sector-leading 3D videos. And these videos can be seen on her social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. On that note, the founder of Leah 27, John Francois, will be joining us in today's setup that will start in 4 hours time, 1.5 hours before the usual tech news around the world room on a special interview with him. So if you're interested, please join us. This is our Virgin show. Thank you.
Our Virgin show. No, I think you mean our debut. But yeah.
Debut, yes.
It's the same thing, Tyler.
Our Virgin show.
She said so many interesting
English
things
so
in the wrong context.
Yes, it's the Japanese translation into English. I love it.
Yeah. Debut, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. So next article is from John Capp, and the audience sends this one from Reuters that China's Geely, which is probably one of their biggest car their biggest car company. They own Volvo, by the way. Aims to set up 5,000 battery swapping stations for EVs globally by 2025 as sales grow for EVs. And the next one from Ken from Vice, that unpaid fact checkers are getting burnout from debunking so many Nazis on TikTok.
I'm sorry, Tyler. I'm laughing to myself. They just want a pay raise.
Yeah.
Because they're unpaid.
Just want to get paid. You want to get paid to debunk the Nazis on TikTok.
But just get paid for something.
Yeah. The next one, speaking of TikTok, this one from Vice, TikTok is hosting ads for whipped cream. Has anyone seen this? Anyone seeing ads for whipped cream on TikTok?
No.
Do you know why you're seeing people are seeing ads for whipped cream on TikTok? Bristol #1 whipped cream promises to provide whipped cream within an hour. But it's a very clever hack. What they're actually selling is the nitrous oxide containers.
That's what I figured.
That power the whipped cream, and it's a drug. It's becoming a rather popular social drug now. So,
it was popular for me in high school, unfortunately.
Yeah, cream chargers. You see them at even the Starbucks whipped cream guns that they use. They use this nitrous oxide charger to power them.
It kills a lot of brain cells. So we really need to look at this TikTok thing. People can die from it pretty pretty readily. You know, when you do it, what happens to you if you overdose is it's called phishing, and you just start convulsing like crazy. It's the scariest thing you'll ever see. It scares you sober.
Well, so here's one of the things they don't teach you in high school that they should say is that don't huff the whipped cream can. Like if you're going to do it, go for the nitrous oxide container. But of course, they take an abstinence kind of policy.
Okay.
Yeah, but if this is targeted to kids, this is really shocking me with our government. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you know what I'm saying is that that's not really even a good approach. We would go to a racing shop and buy a nitrous oxide tank and sell them for $5 a balloon for profit. Like that's like people, you're dealing in death. And I'm not a saint. And earlier in my days, I never dealt it. I was a consumer, but that's how it worked.
As a paramedic, I can say that in the medical implication of these ones is that if you get a treatment with NOx, which we call it, you get 50% NOx and 50% oxygen, because the asphyxiation, I can't pronounce that one, is quite a high risk. You can actually take 4 breaths of NOx, pure NOx, and never resurface again. Because what you do is that you saturate your blood with something that attaches better than oxygen to the red blood clots. So NOx is really, really, really dangerous in a concentrated form. There's another issue with this one. NOx is, I think it's 1,200 times more dangerous in the atmosphere than CO2. Johan, done speaking.
Okay, so the next one is Amazon's creating a POS system to compete with Shopify. That's from Monica from Forbes. We covered that one previously because they want all that juicy data to know what everyone's buying and where they're buying it. And then the next one's from Evan, that the Taliban could get their hands on up to 150 nuclear weapons after America's catastrophic withdrawal of Afghanistan, says Trump's former security advisor John Bolton. And former security advisor John Bolton said it was possible the nuclear weapons could end up in the hands of the Taliban if, well, let's see what the if is here. He said the militants could get 100 if they take over Pakistan. Well, that's not going to happen, you silly goose. The U.S. completed a catastrophic withdrawal. Yeah. The Taliban in control of Afghanistan threatens the possibility of terrorists taking control of Pakistan. No, it doesn't, you jackass. Okay, next one up is people who don't wear masks are up to twice as likely to get COVID in this article that Evan found. What is this one, Evan? It is from Daily Mail in the UK, and the headline says, people who don't wear face masks indoors are up to twice as likely to test positive for COVID. UK study suggests Boris Johnson made face masks optional in England on Freedom Day, July 19th, and surveys suggest around 1 in 10 Britons have stopped wearing them. Office of National Statistics said not wearing them increased infection risk, and surveys suggest 1 in 10 Britons have already stopped. What's the study here?
Yeah, in the UK, it's a joke. I mean, I can understand people not wearing masks when they're out and about, sort of in public spaces, but when you're in a shop, you should really wear a mask. Be responsible for somebody else.
It says the above graph shows the estimated risk of testing positive. I just want to know what the source of the study is, but the conclusion is that indoor mask wearing, people who don't wear them are twice as likely to get positive. Anyway, so the next one's from Jeff G. from the Washington Post. And the headline reads, companies are hoarding personal data about you. Wow. Now we know. Why didn't anyone tell us? Here's where to find the right forms and email addresses and why data rights requests under CCPA are so complicated. So the headline from the Washington Post again is, I'm just reading the headline. Companies are hoarding personal data about you. Here's how to get them to delete it. Data deletion is complicated and some companies mishandle requests, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So now everyone knows these websites are tracking us. Everybody, they've got trackers on us. They're collecting data. Apparently, they're using data to know what we're doing on the interwebs. The Washington Post wants you to know that these websites are using data. And then Anna Marie, who joins us in the other time zone typically, when we join next time, which will be in 3.5 hours. No. 5.5 hours. She's going to join us because she just took part in this really interesting gathering, which is in the based on this article from Science about the UK pushing ahead to do genetic sequencing on every child. And she's involved in this, and she's going to give us an update. And all the people mentioned in the article are her colleagues, and so it's going to be interesting to see the results of that meeting she just had, which she will share with us when we meet next time. Craig Nielsen shares news from Stockholm, and I got the news in my inbox directly from the founder that one of Sweden's e-motorcycle companies called Cake just raised $60 million to scale production and to do retail sales. Swedish electric motorcycle manufacturer Cake has announced the close of a $60 million Series B. So congrats to them. And the next one's from Evan about the Chinese businessman blows lid on the Communist Party in a new tell-all book called Red Roulette. An insider story of wealth, power, corruption, and vengeance in today's China by Desmond Shum. And he just did an amazing interview with 60 Minutes on Sunday where he gives an inside look about the story of the book. He and his wife were billionaires, some of the most powerful people in China, very highly connected with the government at the highest levels. And his wife was very closely connected to the number 2 person in the CCP, and now she disappeared, and she's been gone for 4 years. And they have he knew this was about to happen, so he fled to the UK with their son. He begged her to come. She didn't, and she disappeared days later. And she's been gone for 4 years, so he wrote the book. He's about to announce the book, which is why he goes on 60 Minutes. The day before the book launch, she mysteriously calls, begging him not to release the book. And he says, I haven't been trying to reach you for 4 years. Where have you been? And she says, well, don't worry about me. All you need to know is, are you sure it's a good idea to release this book? Because it could cost somebody's life. And based on the language, if you watch the interview on 60 Minutes, she's implying, based on the language translation, that it will cost him or their child their life, and not so much her. And what was really interesting about the interview, this guy is obviously incredibly intelligent, and she is as well. She's one of China's most powerful people prior to her disappearing. But when he spoke with her on the phone, it became very clear to him that she had no idea that the world was experiencing COVID, which gives some indication as to what's going on with her. And she's clearly under a lot of control somewhere. So it's a really wild interview. And he summarizes the interview by saying he just wants to get this out and let the world know because he knows he's going to get killed anyways. And so he might as well get the book out there and let the world know what's really going on with all the disappearing billionaires of China. Because
Tyler, is the book out? Did it get
out?
Yeah,
it just came out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it's kind of known by people who follow these things that billionaires of China have been disappearing at a really incredible rate, and his wife being one of them, and he was going to be one of them too, and he wants the world to know why, and he knows it's going to cost him his life to do it, but he feels like he makes an amazing point in this interview where he says the whole point of China is you're taught from a young age you have to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. And he says that's that's what I'm doing by writing this book. Ouch. Holy shit. What an amazing quote.
I'm sorry, Todd. We talk so much about deep fakes in this room. So, when you started sharing more details, I mean, that's where my first went is was it a deep fake of her voice? Or B, was it a pre-recording? But I guess if she was talking with him, I guess I would lean to my first hypothesis. Maybe it wasn't even her.
Lakeisha, I
Lakeisha, I
won't
was
speak too
thinking the
much
same
more on
thing.
this, but that's a known tactic at a certain level. It's called a trilateral hit, or it's a leverage. So everyone dies, unfortunately. That's why I want to get his book, if it's true. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And so I just want to read what he said. Doesn't mean right or wrong. I just want to hear the narrative. That's why I asked Tyler, and I'm sorry you chimed in, Lakeisha, because it's only you, but everyone, you deal with your family, you make your peace, and you do what you're going to do. Because at this level, you don't play these games. And so, and I can't speak for anyone, but given the way Tyler read it, I believe and think it was 100% her regarding, because he talked about COVID. So there's triggers when you know with someone, when you've been with them and you've been married, slept with them, or girlfriend, whatever, or vice versa.
He gave no thought at all that it wasn't her. And he seems, when you watch it, you'll get the sense that this dude's super crazy intelligent. Anyway, somebody please find the 60-minute interview with Red Roulette Desmond Shum. It's totally worth watching. Really chilling interview. Anyway, I just sent Evan's link to the book, and let me do another one here. We covered Twitch. Activision pays $18 million. We covered that, and scientists create the first genetically engineered coffee. Just tweeting that one out, and then Indian state cuts internet to prevent cheating in exam. 1.6 million people sat teaching eligibility test, chasing 40,000 jobs. That's from the Register. And India accelerates talks with Taiwan on a chip plant, a $7.5 billion deal. And Chinese cryptocurrency exchanges scramble to drop Chinese users after Beijing's ban. Yes?
Going back to the genetic engineered coffee,
yeah.
I read a story from Science that there was a group of scientists that created a way to synthesize CO2 to carbohydrates using 10 steps and with genetic engineered enzymes. And this is considered quite a interesting development.
Mm-hmm.
It was published in Science just yesterday. Essentially, the efficiency compared to corn was like 8 times more. So, and the way they did it was to reduce CO2 with hydrogen into methanol, the first step, and the second step is converting methanol to starch. So the starch would be the same kind of structure that you would get from corn, rice, etc., etc. So if this technology can be commercialized, it could conceivably solve the food scarcity and food security issue by producing starch, which is carbohydrates, and that's consumed by most people, especially in the developing world. Well, in everybody really. So combined with that technology, it was quite exciting going forward. That could have impact in
I shared
space
that
travel,
yesterday,
etc.
Tyler.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Messi, you want to say something?
Sorry, Messi, you were.
Messi, you're muted. Okay, move on then.
Okay. Pfizer begins study on an oral drug for prevention of COVID-19.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the start.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say quickly, the starch is great, but the coffee, my goodness, Ethiopia's 40% export and hard currency earning is coffee. And millions of smallholder farmers who live in the countryside depend on coffee. So I don't know. I would think twice. I think if they're going to replace those millions of poor smallholder farmers, that's crazy. That's what I was going to say.
And then I just found...
Yeah, because sorry. On that, because it's generational, right? Messy. It's like passed down. And then they get basically predatory behavior comes in like after one generation, and they like buy out the whole farm, and they pay out the family nothing. And so, like, I think like ethics of that needs to go in. And that's another conversation, Tyler. I'm sorry.
That's
It's
right.
just she brought it up.
Okay, so Japan to lift COVID emergency on Thursday from Nikkei Japan. Thank you, Bibi. And then RCC sends in, apparently the Desmond Shum, who wrote the Red Roulette book, just did an interview with CNN. The book China doesn't want you to read, they're calling it on CNN. He believes his new book about corruption in China led to the mysterious reappearance of his ex-wife after she vanished. Well, yeah, she was calling to warn him not to release it. And then Amgen sends in this one from Euronews. Scientists solved the mystery of how Easter Islanders were able to drink water straight from the ocean, because they didn't have fresh water on Easter Island. So how the hell did they do that? And well, they didn't do it for long because they're no longer there. But let me see. Well, we don't know. I just retweeted that one out. The next one is a really interesting one from Taipei Times from Taiwan. And Taiwan News is reporting that we just had the UN General Assembly at the UN headquarters in Manhattan on First Avenue, where all the world leaders meet in September each year. And they're eagerly reporting that many new countries are recognizing Taiwan, because there was only a handful who had the kind of that were willing to stand up to China in recognizing Taiwan. They were all very small countries that weren't worth retaliating against, but there's some new ones, including Paraguay, Belize, St. Kitts and Nevis, and others. And I'm trying. Here we go. Taipei Times. Taking forever to load.
And to drive this home, like, let's put in mind that the United States considered Taipei, Taiwan, the official China that we did business with, until they booted them out of the UN when they introduced China and gave China a permanent UN Security Council seat. So, this is 40 years in the making, with the dollar hegemon as the main villain. I wouldn't say villain, as the central thesis. When we had to go from gold to fake money, we had to find consumers of our fake money. And how you generate demand for your fake money is you buy products from people who are willing to take your fake money and sell them to you for very cheap so that you buy them. And so that's what this is all about.
Yeah, there was in 1971, Taiwan lost its UN seat when the U.S. recognized Beijing as China, basically. And the Belizean Prime Minister on Friday attended the UN meeting in person to say that the UN's multilateral system must be inclusive to harness the capability of all countries to cement international cooperation where it's most needed. He says Belize's partnership with Taiwan has been based on their common democracy, freedom, human rights, and rule of law, and his country has benefited significantly from its ties with Taiwan. He said Taiwan has provided valuable assistance in providing medical supplies, financial support, and this is interesting politics because maybe all of that support to Belize came with the condition that he say this at the UN General Assembly, because this is really where shit hits the fan.
If you want chips, you better be nice to Taiwan.
Right. So my point is that UN countries recognizing Taiwan or asking to recognize Taiwan, this is where things will get very heated very quickly. He says Belize calls for Taiwan's inclusion in the United Nations and its specialized agencies, adding that it would further enhance global cooperation. St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister renewed his country's call for Taiwan's inclusion in a video played in the UN session. Harris praised Taiwan's achievements and successes, saying his country strongly believes Taiwan has an important role to play in the international development. Taiwan has demonstrated that it can be a true partner in health, and we have seen this exemplary response to the pandemic. My country looks forward to Taiwan being included in the UN system and its meetings, mechanisms, and blah, blah, blah. Friday was the fourth day of this year's General Assembly session, by which time 8 of Taiwan's allies had made speeches. 7 of those allies, Palau, Guatemala, the Marshall Islands, Paraguay, Belize, St. Kitts, and Nevis, voiced their support for Taiwan, while the 8th, Honduras, refrained from mentioning Taiwan for the 6th consecutive year. Okay, next up from BB, from Reuters, Google, in its fight against its record $5 billion EU fine, slams regulators for ignoring Apple. Apple unit Google on Monday criticized EU antitrust regulators for ignoring rival Apple as it launched a bid to get Europe's second highest court to annul this $5 billion fine. The old cookie jar defense. She did it. Why are you picking on me? What about my sibling who also did it?
So Tyler, I found a non-broken link to the article on Easter Island. The trick is that rainwater would seep through pores in the rocks, and there would be areas where it accumulated along the coastline and remain more or less fresh.
Above ground aquifer water, filtered rain. That's what that works.
Big filter, a micro.
Yeah. Drought forces west. This is the headline from Bloomberg Law. Drought forces West to turn fossil fuels that helped cause it. An unlikely energy sector is emerging as a winner from the West's mega drought. Fossil fuels, because the hydroelectric dams are no longer working. The water levels have gotten so low, we're missing out on necessary power in the form of hydroelectric power because the dams are dry. So we have to go back to fossil fuels, which caused the problem in the first place. Good times. Elizabeth Holmes' trial sparks a Silicon Valley debate. As the former CEO of the blood testing company Theranos faces fraud charges, some are asking why other tech leaders accused of fraud aren't also. Why not other tech CEOs? Yeah. Well, I think what examples are we talking about here in this? It's from NPR. Federal prosecutors allege she, as the number 2 at Theranos, broke the law by deceiving investors about how well the business was doing. In Silicon Valley, the trial has launched a debate. Since Holmes was following a playbook used by dozens of tech CEOs, why is she the only one not facing prosecution? Why is she the only one to face prosecution when a company becomes engulfed in a scandal? Ellen Pao, the former CEO of Reddit, who's a vocal critic of gender discrimination and tech sexism, is particularly... She says sexism is to blame. When you see which CEOs get to continue to wreak havoc on consumers and the market, it's people who look like the venture capitalists who are mostly white men, Powell says. She points to Adam Neumann, who drove WeWork into the ground, former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick, who resigned after a sexual harassment scandal, and Jules, Kevin Burns, who stepped down amid questions over the company's role in stoking the youth vaping epidemic. There were lawsuits, settlements, and more fallout, but notably, Powell points out no criminal prosecutions. And the quote is that all these people continue to lead their lives and not be held accountable for all the harm that they've caused. It does send a message. So this topic was addressed by my buddy Jason and David Sachs and Chamath on the All In podcast, and they debated this and pointed out and there are some very clever folks over there on the All In podcast. I highly recommend reviewing the most recent episode where they discuss this about Ellen Pao pointing this out. And I believe it was Sachs or David Sachs or Chamath who pointed out that the key difference, I think it was Chamath, pointed out that this very important distinction here is that Elizabeth Holmes at Theranos was lying about the past, where in Silicon Valley, it's very common for people to lie about the future, but those are two totally different things. Lying about the past and lying about the future. In Silicon Valley, founders lie about the future all the time, but the investors know that. Tech investors know that the founders are being creative about what's going to happen in the future. That's not against the law to lie about the future. It hasn't happened yet. Lying about the past, that's against the law. You do go to jail for that. That is criminal. That's the difference. And so Ellen points out examples of people who may have lied about the future, but they didn't do the very important thing that that Elizabeth Holmes is now being charged with doing, which is lying about the past, which, faking test results. And that's lying about the past, and that's criminal. That's against the...
And a different way of putting it is when they're stating their beliefs about the future, which can be totally wrong, but this is what they believe. Whereas she made materially false statements.
Right. Yeah.
And I
think
wouldn't
there's
even.
another angle to this is that if you look at Theranos board of directors and their investors, a lot of people were actually not the typical Sandhill people. They were, Schultz, Mattis, these are military, George, Secretary of State type of figures. So there's a lot of power that really came with that, that type of people in charge of the company. And they also sort of supposedly repeatedly not didn't respond to questioning from scientists or lab technicians about the results. So I think it made a really good story, particularly by that I can't remember the name, the Wall Street Journal, was it Wall Street Journal reporter that blew the story up. So it really made a very unique case of something like this happening in Silicon Valley, where the investors really had a background from Washington, D.C.
Well, I would just add, this whole case of Theranos and being a minority, I get it, and being overlooked, but I just remember this wasn't tech built up from the ground. And I think Eli said it earlier. It's not about lying about the past or the future. You're always projecting, your forward-looking statements, but you can't lie about the fucking, excuse my language, the science. If you say you have X, Y, Z, you need to have it and have proven it scientifically. And then maybe have it not necessarily peer reviewed, but enough macro scientists to confirm what you're building. She said she built it and it was done, and it wasn't done. That's my understanding, and I don't know all the details, but sometimes, Tyler, it makes me sad because this is more of, it sometimes suppresses then other investors and people like, well, if she lied, everyone can lie, and can they do this, and can anyone build it? And versus building from the ground up, you just do the damn work, and you build it, and like a Marine, you just build it all the way up, and it's a hard road, but versus you're a shining star, you come out, you have something, then you're omitting, you're mitigating, you're changing test results, and this is healthcare. Just build it the right way,
and specifically
and walk away, because a lot of startups fail.
Specifically, some of the materially false statements weren't just to investors, but to patients who got bad test results that led them to either not get treatment or to get unnecessary treatment. And
that's where I'm
that
going,
is
Eli.
just...
That's where I'm at. Exactly. Because I'm like, if you're going to do something, I'm sorry to cut you off. If you're going to do it, do it. I mean, if you want money or greed, figure out another way or get smarter or work harder. But, if you're going to talk about healthcare and macro shit, you better get your game on, because I was talking to Lakeisha back channel. I'm from the hood. If I'm living and breathing, I'm going to find you. Okay. And I'm not perfect. I'm not an angel, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. And when I can't do it, I'll say it. If I don't do it, I can't. But I mean, damn, you get to this level and you're doing all this. And I was watching that company and I was just like, wow, if they really did this, this is great. But I just kept watching and I didn't see the science.
Okay. So, vaccine house from the... Okay, here we go. The Evan sends in this one that Florida punishes schools who require masks, but then study finds masks cut school COVID outbreaks by 3.5x. And then this one from Dr. Fran from the New York Times, it's called Red COVID. COVID's partisan pattern is growing more extreme, meaning more Republicans or red states that are being disproportionately affected, which makes sense because they don't like the wearing masks or getting vaccinated and whatnot. And I tried to warn about this, I don't know, 4 months ago when I said Delta is going to come and kick all the red states' ass. So here we are with the headlines 4 months later. And Renjant sends in this one that Johnny Ive, the design guru of Apple, is bringing his talents to Ferrari. Apple's former design lead, Johnny Ive, has signed a long-term partnership deal with the car manufacturer Ferrari. And then somebody named Cal Patel sends in one about the Dyson school, where his daughter goes to school. And Sir James Dyson says, the school curriculum at Dyson should teach children to be doers rather than virtual signalers. And should do shit instead of talk shit, I think we could say. And then Robert sends in one that Berliners, as people who live in Berlin call themselves, are back seizing housing from so-called mega landlords. In a referendum on Sunday, timed to coincide with Germany's general election on Sunday, locals supported expropriation by 56 to 39%. Challenge rising against the perceived mega wealthy from Germany. Berliners back seizing housing from so-called mega landlords, and it's a huge issue in Berlin because Berlin used to have incredibly cheap rent, and the rent prices have been going up very high, and they don't like it, and landlords are buying it and raising rents, and Berliners don't like that. So in a referendum time, it's nearly impossible to describe this feeling. An activist of Berlin's expropriate campaign told you, and for many of us, it feels the end of a 4-year marathon, or at the very least, we reach a major high point. The campaign is a private landlord, and they see the referendum victory as a culmination of years of campaigning against skyrocketing housing and rental prices. They don't want speculators in the city, so they're making it difficult for people to come in and drive up housing prices, basically. But they seem to be making some progress there. And I think I still have, shamefully, 15 hours of tweets to get into, but we will get into those before we meet again in now 5 hours. So
no, 3.5 hours. No, 4.5 hours. No, 3.5 hours.
No.
Tyler,
3.5 hours for John Francois. Today's startup.
Okay.
Tyler, can you look out for my tweet, and hopefully you might be able to feature it later.
Okay.
It's a bit of a fun one.
Okay, and then click on the title of the room, and you'll see the upcoming rooms here. So Cheryl's room with Jean-Francois starts in for 3.5 hours, and then after that, then we have tech news. So join us a little earlier if you can. Join us an hour and a half early, so we can. Cheryl's going to interview Jean-Francois, who was just in the news again recently about his company.